The end of time.
O'clock.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Wednesday night. And this topic here, I can't believe that we have not done this topic.
We must have just mentioned it.
Well, I think what probably happened, because I think when we first started the show out, we were like trying to not do the really obvious shit.
Yeah.
And so we ended up not doing it, but then like I got a message a couple weeks ago and it's like, hey, have you guys ever done Roswell? And I'm like, oh, I'm sure we've done Roswell. But then when I looked back at our shows, I'm like, oh, I guess we haven't done Roswell.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I put it in the poll and it won. So I guess everybody wanted us to do Roswell.
It's going to be a good show tonight.
Yeah, and you know,
Jen couldn't do all the research that she wanted to do on this, but she did it. She did enough, and I know a lot about the case. And the thing is about, especially this case in particular, the older it gets, the more bullshit's been fucking heaped onto it.
oh yeah, big time.
The story's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I remember when this shit first appeared on television, more or less. It was like early 80s, around the time of Empire Strikes Back. I must have been about 13, 14. And they were talking about it like it was a long lost, forgotten incident. Because I think that was kind of, it happened, it was in the newspaper, and then they stopped talking about it.
And then everyone kind of forgot about it.
And then they forgot about it, yeah.
For like 30 years.
Yeah, and then in the early 80s, they started bringing it back.
Yeah, late 70s, it was late 70s.
Yeah, late 70s, early 80s. I remember it. I remember, seeing it, and some of the people were still alive.
Yeah.
In the early 80s. I remember seeing interviews with them. And we'll get into it. The stuff that was added on there later, man, there's a lot of bullshit in UFO stories. Lots of it. But there's also a lot of good shit. But you got to go back to source material. The earliest accounts from eyewitnesses. That's the way you got to go. And mass sightings like Phoenix Lights, they're pretty fucking strong. And pilots, shit that pilots see. Now lately, you know what I mean? The military's supposedly coming out saying that they see UFOs all the time. I don't really. I've seen a few interviews, but they're kind of hokey. I don't know what's true or not. I really doubt the military knows anything, other than that maybe that they see things. I don't think they know anything about it though.
Which might be one of the reasons that they're kind of keeping it secret, not for any nefarious purpose, but they're just sitting there going like, well, we don't want to look like we don't know shit about shit, but we don't.
Yeah, they don't want to let everybody know that they don't control everything.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
It's an American institution, the government and the Air Force, and it's had a long history of being a know-it-all. And, trying to say, oh, we got it under control, don't worry about it. Men in higher offices who know more than you got this shit under wraps. We're taking care of you. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Well, I kind of feel like most people don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
If they say they know what the fuck they're doing, they're probably lying.
Yeah. So I'm ex-military, ex-army. I know how the military system goes. Fucking got a lot of family and government, fucking State Department, among other agencies that, that they worked in. And I just know how the system goes. I was a State Department dependent as a kid. My mom was involved in the State Department. And, oh man, over time things got declassified and she told me what had happened, you know what I mean? And I was like, wow, the government's idiots. Like, yeah, they're stupid.
Well, most people are idiots.
Most of that secret shit was classified. They're hiding fucking mistakes that they made. There's a lot of it. Fuck-ups. Hiding fuck-ups.
The thing about this, what Phantom was saying earlier, that said Roswell Incident probably just an experimental military aircraft crash, and the government spread disinformation amongst the town folks saying it was aliens. The thing about it, that you're kind of right, but I kind of feel like the government didn't really say it was aliens. Not initially.
Yeah.
They did come out in the 90s and say it was a cover-up, but not of aliens. It was a cover-up of like a top secret
Project Mogul balloon.
Yeah, that's why they kind of kept secret about it. But the thing about things that people associate with Roswell, like a saucer crash, like a flying disc, and like alien bodies and stuff like that, that wasn't added until later.
A lot later.
And it's probably, and actually, like, from at least from what I read, they know where that alien body story came from.
Yeah.
Like, and it got like glommed onto the Roswell thing, but it didn't initially have anything to do with it.
What ended up happening with all these cases is secondary and tertiary supposed witnesses start coming forward. Oh yeah, I saw it, but I was at the base when I saw it. I saw the body. So there's a bunch of places where you can add on, but you got to go through every one of those fucking witnesses and fucking qualify or disqualify them. Were they actually there at that particular time?
Yeah, because some of them said they were and they weren't.
They weren't, right. You got to actually be there and have proof that you were there at that time. And there have been some fucking witnesses, and this is even back in the days in the 90s, that would come forth saying ridiculous shit, then they get debunked later. And one of them was fucking a military officer named Corso.
Yeah, I have.
That motherfucker was a pathological liar. Okay, it's all he did was fucking lie, and he liked to go on the UFO tours.
Yeah,
and go on the UFO scene. Just because a dude is a military officer, that doesn't mean he's fucking truthful, or that he's intelligent even.
Yeah, anybody.
If you understand how the officer,
if
you understand how the officer corps works, man, a lot of those dudes are morons, dumb. I know because a friend of mine, fucking Trepansky, he went green to gold. I went to basic training with him, and then he ended up becoming an officer and eventually became an armored captain, fucking commanding a platoon of fucking M1 Abrams tanks. And he'd tell me after we were out now, he says, man, you have to realize how fucking stupid fucking officers are. I said, yeah? Go, oh, yeah. The second lieutenants are like worse than privates, dumber than fucking privates. And they constantly have to fucking pull their commissions and shit because they just couldn't live up to it. And, that is some shit from the 1600s where you're recruiting officers out of universities. Those are the last dudes that you want in the military. You're better off recruiting them for fucking construction. That you really are. Because you just need workers. What they're doing is not real intelligent. They're just filling out paperwork, and they have to be a soldier like anybody else. You get them from universities, man, that's not the person that you want. You can train anybody to fly in a jet. You can train anybody to be an officer. He just has to be tough and disciplined, and you're not going to find that in university. For the most part. Those are silver spoon kids. Rich boys. They don't want to die for anything.
The thing about Roswell...
They want a cushy job.
The thing that I find about Roswell that's interesting is that you can kind of see, if you go back and follow how the story evolved over the years, you can kind of see it as almost like a prime example of like folklore building or like myth making.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they can see where different details of it came from and where people came from. And the problem, too, I think, is that the shit happened, the original crash, there was a crash.
Mac Brazel.
But that happened in 1947.
Yeah.
The story didn't gain any popular traction until 30 years later, 1978 or thereabouts. And by that time, some of the original witnesses... That was 30 years ago. I don't remember shit that happened 30 days ago, all right? So it's just so they could be conflating things. Some of them had died, and so you're getting secondhand accounts from their kids or something like that. Oh, my dad told me he saw this, that, and the other thing.
My dad showed me the wreckage.
Right, and then there's another thing, too, that it's the person might be mistaken. They might be trying to make some money off the UFO circuit. There's a million reasons that they could be misremembering or just making a story up. So I kind of feel like when there's not any proof of shit like this, then when it's just people's stories, and particularly when it's people's stories that they didn't come out with until 30 years later, that always makes me a little suspicious.
Yeah. The original story, though, was his name was Mac Brazel, I think was his name. He finds some wreckage. And the way he describes the wreckage, I believe it. All right? Because it constitutes something actually kind of earthly origin, but it was, it was a balloon wreckage. It had to have been. He never describes anything solid, nothing with nuts and bolts.
No, not really.
It's just,
like I said,
I-beam, wooden material.
Shit got added later on.
Yeah, and it got distorted. And there was a cover-up. They hushed him up. They gave him some hush money, keep his mouth shut. So it was a real event, and the fucking army, evidently, the army security told the newspaper that they had recovered a crashed flying saucer.
They called it a flying disc, which, like I said, we'll get into. But then they retracted it the next day. They retracted
it, though, yeah.
And I don't know if that was deliberate disinformation or if they just fucked up or if they just misspoke. Or I'm not entirely clear on what the reasoning was for that.
Well, they don't actually... The newspaper does not...
Because what they found was not a disc.
The newspaper, I don't think, names the source of who told them that. It just said Army official or something.
Well, I have a thing in here that I think it says, like, who said it. But,
because I always remember thinking there was a chance that the newspaper embellished.
That could be, too. But I kind of feel like it came from a person, but they're not real sure. And I think they were mad at that person for saying that. Because, that wasn't what it was.
Yeah.
And two, they were giving people, like, weird ideas.
Yeah.
And, well, the reason that it got called a flying disc, they think, is because prior to the Roswell Incident, which happened in 1947, like late June, early July 1947, was there had actually been some weird, like, UFO sightings. And somebody, I think it was only 9 or 10 days prior, said they had seen some weird stuff in the sky. But they didn't say it was discs. They actually said they were crescent-shaped or bat-wing-shaped.
Yeah, he's talking about... Yeah, what was that guy's name? He was flying his aircraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, crescent-shaped craft, what he could have been talking about is flying wings.
Yeah.
The Northrop was working on flying wings, and fucking the Germans had them, and for all we know, we had a Horton flying wing, it was a fucking wooden fucking jet. It was swept back wings. It was pretty cool looking, very futuristic, and it was kind of radar resistant. Yeah, which people don't realize that plywood is fucking radar resistant, and the shape of a flying wing is.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a return off, especially with the old radars that they had back then. And it wasn't done on purpose though. It was accidental. A lot of these fucking high-tech laminate composite materials they brag about are shit like fucking plywood, or may as well be plywood. The fiberglass with fucking stuck together with fucking resin and shit.
Yeah, so, like I said, we haven't really talked about this case because, you guys know it's like talking about UFO cases is not usually my favorite thing. But this one I find interesting just for the folkloric aspects of it, just because there was a real event that happened in 1947 that probably wasn't as mysterious, as it was made out to be later on. And then many years later, people started latching onto it and adding details on it that weren't in the original story. And now I think that people, when they associate it with, the whole town of Roswell, New Mexico, is now dependent on tourist dollars from alien people.
Yeah.
Like coming there and every restaurant and everything like that has fucking aliens on it. I think even their Walmart has like a spaceship painted on the front.
Yeah, and the intelligence agencies can now use aliens as a fucking cover story for anything.
That's one thing that I find interesting about this, though. Like I said, because the stuff that they found, they did say in the paper, like somebody did say it was a flying disc, but then they retracted it the next day. It's like, no, that's not what it was. But it's like, I wonder, I have the feeling that it was just like a mistake, that they just said that or somebody misinterpreted something. But it could have been deliberate misinformation. I'm not entirely sure. Because like I said, there was a cover-up involved, which we found out in the 1990s, but it wasn't of aliens. And all the stuff about, alien bodies and the alien autopsy and the alien bodies that got taken to Hangar 18 or whatever the fuck, that was not added until way later.
It's not exactly what I was talking about the intelligence agencies using UFOs as a cover. There was a UFO program I remember seeing as a kid. Somebody dug it up and had it on YouTube. I remember the program. And it was just a woman who lived out in a fucking Ohio or some shit, Ohio or Michigan, who was in a wooded area and saw something come over the top of the hills and fly right over her at high speed and then leave. And she drew it. And she said it was black and it was angular. It looked like a diamond with wings on it, and it had lights. And she showed where the lights were, colored lights. And if you look at that fucking... And if you look at that fucking frontal section of what it is she's drawing the front of the fucking stealth fighter. And you had like fucking intelligence type dudes from the FBI going, yeah, that must be a UFO. You know, covering up. They knew what that was. They knew what she saw. She saw a fucking F-117 stealth fighter. If you look at it fucking head on, it looks like a flying saucer. You know what I mean? Where it is. And she even showed where the tail was. She said it had two antennas sticking out of the top of it. That would have been the tail. That's what she saw. And it's obvious when you see the drawing that's what she saw.
Yeah, but they didn't want anybody to know.
They didn't want anybody to know because it was years before the F-117 was made public.
I kind of feel like... So maybe that's what happened in this situation, because when they saw the wreckage, like, some people knew what it was. Like, some people that were kind of higher up were like, oh, yeah, that's associated with, like you said, Project Mogul, which was top secret at the time. It's been declassified since. But, so maybe they did. Maybe they went with the whole flying disc story. But like I said, if they had wanted to continue with the disinformation, you wouldn't think they would have retracted it the next day. Because honestly... not really like nowadays, but back in the 1940s, like, there was, this happened, then, you know, the army came out and said, you know, oh, it was a weather balloon, it's fine. And then there was a couple of other UFO hoaxes, which I'll talk about in a minute. And after that happened, everyone just kind of forgot about it. And so it didn't, like I said, it didn't really gain any traction again for like 30 years, like until the 1970s came along, and like some more kind of fringe UFO kind of conspiracy theory type people started writing books about Roswell and started like adding details to the story and re-interviewing some of the people that had been around and some of the people that maybe weren't around and had embellished what they saw or had forgotten what they saw over the years or various other things. So... like I said, I don't know. It's kind of interesting how it just blew up into this big, huge thing. Because at the time, it was like nothing. It was like not a big deal. Like at the time that it happened.
Yeah, the newspaper that put that out was kind of a local paper. It didn't have a big reach.
Yeah, I think it was just the
local newspaper.
The Daily Record or whatever the hell it was called, like in the area.
Yeah, so it didn't go national.
Yeah, I don't think so. But like I said, there had been a little bit of a craze. There was a little bit of a craze for like UFO kind of stuff because there had been some sightings prior to that. But I don't think it was national news. Yeah. You know what I mean? And everyone just kind of forgot about it like not too long after. So what ended up happening? It's late June, early July of 1947. And as I mentioned, there had been some, like, several hundred, like, reports of UFOs and stuff like that in the New Mexico area prior to the crash at Roswell. One of these, the guy I was mentioned earlier, his name is Kenneth Arnold. And he said that he had seen some, UFOs performing some maneuvers that, that he didn't know of anything that could fly like that. So he kind of reported it. And so there was all that kind of stuff going on like prior to. So maybe people were kind of primed. Now, the thing that crashed in this field, it was a ranch, like with all this land around it, that belonged to a guy named Mac. Is it Brazel or Brazel?
Brazel.
It looks like, yeah. It looks like Brazel to me, but I heard people pronounce it all day, but like people were pronouncing it different. So he had a ranch near Corona, New Mexico. And this thing crashed on his land. Now, what he found initially, he didn't describe it as a crashed UFO or nothing like that. He said it was thin wooden beams, rubber, tape, and something that looked like tinfoil.
Yeah.
And it was like spread out like over a pretty large area, like several acres. So he found this stuff. And he didn't really think that much about it. Like, he didn't really know what it was. He's like, that's weird. But he just, like, stuck it in his garage or something like that. Like, he didn't really think anything about it. But then, because of these other flying saucer reports, even though the dude didn't say flying saucer, the Kenneth Arnold guy, he said crescent. He said it looked like a crescent shape, is what he said.
Yeah, Kenneth Arnold.
Yeah.
I think he saw a flight of flying wings.
Yeah, he might have.
They were probably testing them. Jets.
Yeah, because he said they just flew the way, like, in a way that he had never seen anything fly before.
And another thing is that the Sabre jet was swept wing like that. And from certain angles, you might not see the fuselage. You might just see those swept wings, which would make it look like a flying wing, And jets were still kind of a new phenomenon during the time when that pilot did that report. What was his name again?
Kenneth Arnold.
Kenneth Arnold, yeah. During his time, jets were new. So he probably I think he just misidentified it. He said it looked like they were in a pattern, and it looked like they were skipping across the top of the water. But it may have been monkey waves. You know what I mean? To make it look that way, or they might have been maneuvering.
The interesting thing to me, and I kind of feel like this was true probably up through the 50s, was that when people saw UFOs, they didn't initially jump to extraterrestrials. They immediately jumped to Soviet technology or secret military technology, which was probably a lot more correct. But that was the first thing they thought when they saw something they didn't identify. They're like, oh, this must be like some top secret shit.
Well, it makes sense because
they didn't really think it was extraterrestrials.
It makes sense because the Germans were working on things like that.
Right, and I think people knew that. Yeah.
Called the Flying Flapjack. We had one called the Flying Flapjack, and it was kind of oval shaped and it had propellers on the front. And there was going to be a jet version of it. And it was kind of like similar to almost like a helicopter. It had real short takeoff because it was at a real steep angle on the landing gear. It had a lot of lift for its size, so it didn't have to be moving very fast for it to take off. It didn't need much runway. From a distance, that would look like a flying saucer. So the Germans were working on shit like that too. Vertical landing and takeoff airplanes. They're definitely airplanes. They just happen to be what we call a ring wing, or you know what I mean, flying, lifting body. And they were kind of vaguely disc-like, but I'd say more like oval be a better description. But from a distance, that shit would look like a circle, especially at certain angles.
Yeah, but like I said, I kind of found it interesting that back in this era, before the big sci-fi craze, I guess, people, if they saw weird shit in the sky, they wouldn't immediately assume aliens.
Yeah.
They would assume it was some top secret thing they weren't supposed to be seeing. Which, like I said, was probably a lot more accurate. CB said, my cat is fascinated with Jenny. She keeps kissing the screen when Jenny is speaking. Aw. Your cat knows that I love kitties.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. But yeah, so because there had been all of these, because old Mac Brazel hadn't heard about any of the, or so he said, he hadn't heard about any of the flying disc or the flying crescent sightings because he wasn't watching the news or anything. But he had a friend that said, hey, maybe that shit you found in your field, maybe that's one of them. You know, maybe it's one of the weird things. Maybe you should report it. Because like I said, at first he didn't think it was that weird. He didn't know what it was, but he was just like, whatever. I'll just like stick it all in a shed or something. But when his friend said that, he's like, yeah, maybe I should like go report it. So he goes to Roswell, New Mexico, because he didn't actually live in Roswell. He lived in Corona, New Mexico. And he goes and tells the sheriff about all the shit that he found in his field. And, you know, he's like, maybe it's some kind of military aircraft or something like that. But something crashed. I don't know what it is. So the sheriff, whose name is George Wilcox, he called the Roswell Army Airfield. Now, interestingly, this, the RAAF, as they called it, this was where the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, this was the only unit at the time that was capable of delivering nuclear weapons.
Atomic bombs.
Yes. So, coincidentally. You know what I mean? Perhaps. So he tells them about this, and the military guys were like, okay, well, maybe that is something we need to look into. I'm sure that maybe at least one of them suspected probably what it was and said, yeah, well, you probably need to go pick that up, like when he described it.
Well, if they got a nuclear bomb group there, that means that place has like been cleared security-wise for any projects that have to do with nuclear technology, which that points to Mogul.
Yeah, because even though, you know, and I guess this story's so well known, it's like we're kind of jumping around like, you know, we're doing spoiler alert and stuff.
We'll get to it, right.
But I kind of feel like most people probably know at this stage, because Project Mogul was declassified in the 90s, that it wasn't nuclear itself, but it was specifically to detect nuclear like Soviet nuclear explosions.
Yeah, it was a balloon, a high altitude balloon. On the bottom of it had a detector, and it could detect distant Soviet nuclear bomb tests, and then send you data back to prove it. They were just wanted to know, and they wanted to know the strength of it and everything, you know. They were just trying to see what the Soviets were doing. This is in it, they didn't have satellites yet.
Yeah. So they were trying it out.
Yeah.
And no one was supposed to know about it. It's like it was supposed to be super top secret. But they put out these balloon arrays a lot, and like every now and then they would go off course, and every now and then one of them would crash. So I kind of feel like probably at least one of the people that they contacted when the debris was described probably was like, oh, I'm pretty sure I know what that is. So it's like we should probably go mop that up because no one's supposed to know about that project.
Yeah, and who knows, the little detector that it was carrying, that's going to be classified.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's why they were so hush-hush about it, not because it was aliens.
And not so much the balloon, but that the instrument it was carrying. They had to get that.
Yeah. So they, contact all the brass and everything, and they're just like, okay, so they're going to come there and get the stuff. Now, the guy, because remember how you said they didn't know, like, who gave the information that it was flying disc? They do now.
They do know? Okay.
It was the RAAF Public Information Officer, whose name was Walter Haut.
Okay.
And he was the one that put out the press release and said that the military has recovered a flying disc near Roswell. Matter of fact, they have the whole entire press release, which says, the many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers and the sheriff's office of Chavez County. The flying object landed on a ranch near Roswell sometime last week. Not having phone facilities, the rancher stored the disc until such time he was able to contact the sheriff's office, who in turn notified Major Jesse A. Marcel of the 509th Bomb Group Intelligence Office. And that was what ran in the paper. Flying disc. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure why he called it that.
Yeah, what was the rank of the guy? What was his name again? Who gave the report to the?
He was a public information officer.
Okay, I wonder what his rank was and how long he'd been in there.
I'm not really sure, but he's the one that
Maybe
gave
he was
them
a civilian.
that wording.
Yeah, maybe that's what he thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it doesn't really seem malicious necessarily. Yeah. It just kind of seems like maybe he got excited because they just assumed because of all the reports previously about flying discs or crescent-shaped craft or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he was just like, ooh, exciting, like one of them crashed, and he just assumed that's what it was. I'm not real sure.
Something crashed, and he goes, what is it? And somebody went, it's probably one of them flying saucers.
Yeah, maybe. He's like,
and
ooh,
he's like, oh, flying
neat.
saucer, yeah. Flying saucer. Hey, we got a flying saucer.
Yeah. I'm going to tell the newspaper.
If you said some shit like that, you'd be in some big trouble.
Yeah.
He had to have been a civilian.
I mean, yeah.
He must have been a civilian contractor.
I mean, he doesn't have a rank in front of his name.
A military guy would know better.
Yeah.
Because now
so
you're
he might have just been running his mouth.
Yeah, because you're overstepping your fucking boundary. You get busted down in rank. They got total control over you if you're fucking in the military.
Yeah.
So, you're real... Well, first thing is that you can get in a shit ton of trouble for giving an inaccurate report to higher ups, because they depend on accurate information to make strategic decisions.
It's kind of their thing.
You can get kicked out of the military if you're demonstrated to be a pathological liar.
Well, I would hope.
I saw a guy who was a pathological liar get kicked out just because. What are you going to do? Give him a radio? Yeah, oh man, there's 30 of them. There's like
that's
one
what
guy,
I mean. You can't trust a person.
You
like
can't
that.
trust him. Right.
You probably can't trust him in any job,
right,
especially not in like military applications.
He made it through basic and everything, but when he got to his unit and they realized all he did was just fucking lie, they kicked him out. He was only in for about 4 or 5 months.
Some people are just like that. It's a mental illness. I'm not really sure. Maybe it is just a mental illness. Maybe they can't help themselves.
Yeah, they can't help it.
I'm not real sure. I've known a couple of people like that, and I'm just like, are you fucking serious? And they'll tell lies that are like very, very easily debunked.
Yeah.
Which is like,
it's like obvious.
Crazy.
It's like a little thrill that they get from lying.
I guess. I'm not sure what it is.
And then they like to deny it.
Yeah.
And then, you call me a liar? They're like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're calling you a liar.
That's exactly what you are, bud.
Yeah, but so this had to have been a civilian.
Yeah, like I said, it just didn't seem malicious, or it didn't seem like deliberate misinformation. It just seemed like maybe he got a little excited.
Yeah.
and said, "Ooh, I'm gonna like give this press release," and they did it like in the paper and on the radio and everything like that. And then
I'm gonna give them a scoop.
And then the next day they were just like,
"What are you talking about?" Yeah,
it wasn't a flying disc. Like, calm down.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It was kind of like that.
It was something that if it was a Project Mogul balloon, they didn't even want it to be fucking mentioned that they found anything.
Yeah.
So he got them into hot water.
I'm sure that's probably what it
story.
was. Yeah. But like I said, I don't think it was malicious on his part. I think
Right.
he just got a little excited. Or he just assumed that it was one of those flying discs that everybody
He
had been
didn't have
talking
any
about.
fucking information discipline.
Yeah,
He wanted to fucking jump in the spotlight.
I guess. I don't know if he got fired after this.
Probably
but,
did.
But that was the press release. They have the press
Yeah.
release, and that's what they put out on the radio. Now, they do have a report, too, of a guy who was a flight engineer at the RAAF. And he said he didn't see the thing, but he said he loaded it onto the flight that was going to the Fort Worth Army Airfield in Texas. He said it was all wrapped up in paper, but he said it was like super light and said it was small enough to fit in the car trunk. So not a disc. You know what I mean?
A little bit of debris, yeah.
But like I said, he didn't see it. It was all wrapped up in paper,
Yeah.
but he said it was super light. So there was that. So, and those are like a week after the crash. Because like I said, the thing crashed, and then the farmer or the rancher didn't do anything with it for like a week or something because he didn't think anything about it. Like he didn't think it was that unusual.
So what it means is it was fucking junk.
Yeah, like if it had
Common
very
junk.
obviously been a spacecraft and there
Yeah.
was alien bodies and stuff, like the shit that got added later, then yeah, you better bet you'd be calling somebody like the second you saw that shit.
Yeah.
But he didn't really think that much about it. He just didn't know what it was, but he's just like, it just looks like a bunch of
They
crap.
did have some witnesses that claimed that, oh yeah, my dad brought the wreckage home, and he gives an account of what it looked like, and it's kind of a twisted account of what it was really made out of.
Yeah.
Which you're probably going to get to that later, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and that's another thing too. It's like I hate to call people like liars or fabricators or anything like that.
He was a kid when he saw
But he
that.
was a kid. Like I said, sometimes the kid was like 5 years old or 10 years old or something like
Yeah.
that. And do you really remember anything that well from when you were? Because I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe some people do, but I kind of feel like most people don't remember stuff as well as they think they do.
Go back and look at it. You go, oh, that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, shit, man. I see a movie that I just saw 5 years ago, and it's like there's shit in there that I totally forgot about.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like much less when I was 5 years old or 10 years old. I don't remember shit from back then. And I think most people don't. Or, memory is not a replay. It's not a perfect replay. Every time you remember something, your brain is reconstructing it.
Yeah.
And if details are added on later or someone suggests something to you, that will become like involved in your reconstruction of it. So memory is really not a great that's why I don't really pay too much attention to like witness accounts of things like this because
although his telling or his description of the debris actually does kind of line up with Project Mogul material.
yeah, exactly. Like what he said he's found.
Yeah.
They said
it is a description. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. He just remembered it being more impressive than it really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he said originally
Yeah.
because his initial thing, like I said, if you go back to the original thing from 1947, the dude that found it said it was rubber strips, tinfoil, paper, tape, and sticks.
Tape. Yeah. Sticks.
That's what he said. He didn't say there was no metal, there was no crumply, weird foil that, popped back into shape, like came into play later on. Like, nothing like that.
Well, I thought the balloon was made kind of like out of vaguely, not really foil, but more like plastic, like cellophane.
I think it was. I think it was like
Cellophane.
polyethylene or something
Yeah.
like that. I can't remember exactly what it was made of, but I saw all the film of Project Mogul has been declassified, and I saw some of it on YouTube. So they show you what the balloons looked like, and if you see it and you read like what the debris was that they found, that's it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It could have been a weather balloon too.
Well, that's what they
why
said
it was a weather
initially.
balloon. Yeah.
That's because it was a balloon. It just wasn't a weather
They
balloon.
used the same balloon though.
Yeah.
For a weather balloons and
It just had different,
and for a
different purpose.
It just
that
had
they
a
didn't
different.
want anybody to
It was carrying a different payload, but
Yeah.
it was the same thing you used for a weather balloon.
Yeah.
Back then, and I remember one of the ingredients was kind of like a cellophane type membrane over it, which some people might have impressed them back in that time because that wasn't a super common material back then. But now here it's everywhere. It's, around a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
Just.
Yeah, I'm just saying that what he found. They said it was it wasn't a weather balloon. It was a balloon, but it was not for meteorological purposes.
Right.
It was for a top secret purpose.
They just couldn't talk about that.
They just couldn't talk about that because it was top secret. So they took some of the stuff and they flew it. They went to Texas first, and then they flew it to Wright Field in Ohio. And they had a colonel there, Colonel Duffy, and he knew about Project Mogul. And he said as soon as he saw the shit, he knew exactly what that was. And he's like, okay, well, we need to do something about this. So he called somebody and said, well, what are we going to say? And he said, we have to call it meteorological equipment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they called the press back. They're going to have a press conference.
Yeah, and then that's what it was. And so they did lie to the public, right? Like several days after the crash on July the 10th of 1947, a bunch of military personnel come out and they did a press conference and they showed weather balloons and how they use them. And they said, yeah, we use them in these configurations. Like we get like weather data, blah, blah, blah. It's all very mundane shit like that. But, like I said, they were lying, but it
was close to the truth.
It was close to the truth. They were balloons, but that wasn't what they used them for. They didn't use them for weather, but that was the cover story. So that's what they did. Now, after the crash in Roswell, or close to Roswell, and after the military came out and said, hey, it was just a weather balloon, no biggie, everyone kind of forgot about it. Like, there was sort of like some other stuff going on too. Like, there was a flying saucer hoax in Twin Falls, which just happened like a few days after the Roswell incident. And that was another one where it's like, oh no, a flying disc crashed. But then when they investigated it, they found that these teenage boys had hoaxed it, like using pieces from a jukebox. So, because there were a couple of hoaxes like that, usually perpetrated by teenagers, so everyone just started thinking, oh, well, there's nothing to it, and everyone just kind of, like, forgot about it. But there were kind of some, I guess, in the fringes of, like, UFO, the burgeoning UFO conspiracy.
Well, the UFO scene was real small.
Back then it was, yeah.
That time.
I mean, that's like late 40s, early 50s. There were people around, but it wasn't like now.
They even had one guy who was a scientist. He said, maybe we should look into this UFO thing. And he wrote a beautiful fucking paper on it. And they ridiculed the hell out of him. Lost his job, his wife. He committed suicide behind it. Even though what he asked for was very, honest. Like, maybe there's something to this. Maybe we should look into it. It's just weird. And his suicide helped fuel the whole UFO scene. Here was a dude who was I think he was a defense contractor of some sort, who they may have killed him to silence him, that kind of shit. Then a burgeoning UFO scene started coming. That and people reading science fiction books.
Yeah.
There's usually science fiction fans that were also
Yeah.
into that. But that's nothing negative though. Science fiction fans end up joining NASA.
Yeah.
Science fiction fans, what I mean, they kind of have an open mind. They want more information, They want to see some shit.
Yeah.
So,
but sometimes
some
if
of the
you
shit was
have too much of an open mind, sometimes your brain falls out.
Yeah. But in the case of the UFO guys, they just wanted to know, hey man, people are seeing shit, are they coming here? I think under some of the stories, man, kind of hard to go against that. Yeah. Something's coming here.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I'm a skeptic about most things. But a couple things I'm not necessarily skeptical about, like to a degree, is, are there other intelligent beings in the universe? Absolutely yes. Have they visited here? Maybe. Do they probe Christopher Walken? No. Except in that movie.
Yeah.
But, because those are three different propositions.
If it's coming here, which there's a chance, there's some credible witness testimony, pilots, mass sightings. The chances of it being biological, I think, are very low. It's going to be AI. It's going to be like big flying triangle fucking thing, And it's basically the monolith from 2001. Basically is what it is. There's no beings in it. It is a life form of its own, and it's immortal. It'd be something like that. Be super advanced. And it doesn't really care about us. It's just looking.
Yeah, because why would they care? I don't really get
They
that.
probably see shit like us all over the place. It does not really big deal.
Yeah, we're just like a bunch of bugs.
Yeah, they're over it. Like, oh yeah, those are everywhere.
They're boring.
Yeah. It's gonna be something like that.
That's what I always thought. It's like I really don't. That's why I really don't truck with like the people that say they've been abducted by aliens and impregnated by aliens and all this other kind of stuff. I'm like, look, if there's aliens, which I'm sure there are, if they're visiting here, which I don't know about, why would they need your scrawny redneck ass? Like,
not only is space very big, there's also a lot of time. There's a shit ton of time in the past, and there's a shit ton of time in the future. There's a chance they could have come here millions of years ago, billions of years ago. There was still life here.
Yeah.
Back then. They might have accidentally started life by throwing some garbage out. You never can tell.
Throw a beer can
out of the garbage out, You flush the toilet. It's kind of a barren rock, and there they go, man.
That would explain a lot about humanity, actually.
Damn, there's now life on the planet.
We're just like the alien
flushing
septic tank.
Yeah.
When they dump the septic tank from their RV or whatever.
The chances of you getting any, I think you have, if you wanted physical proof of extraterrestrials, what I would do is look for ancient artifacts. Shit buried on the moon, just like in 2001. The monolith was up there evidently for fucking millions and millions of years.
Just hanging out.
And it was buried on the moon. And that would be a safe place to put something. Because there's no weather there. There's impacts, but you can just bury it. They detected it because of its magnetic field. The fucking Arthur C. Clarke, man. He figured it out. So I'd probably look at the moon. There might be something on there that was put there millions of years ago. Something left behind. You might dig something up one day. Go, damn, look at this thing. This is from 6 million years ago. It's a machine, or the remnants of a machine. That would be hard to explain.
Yeah.
The thing is that everything falls apart over time. Even metal, I mean, shit, some of the cars from the fucking 70s are gone. Rusted away because the metal wasn't treated properly, wasn't galvanized properly.
Yep. So I kind of feel like even though the UFO subculture, if you want to call it that, was pretty small around this time period, and they probably kind of maybe like talked about Roswell, but it wasn't like a big mainstream kind of thing.
I don't think it went national.
It didn't, like I said, it didn't really get any traction until the late 70s. And I kind of feel like a lot of stuff had to be in place for that to happen because in the 70s, I mean, shit, man, the 70s was there. And this kind of probably started with like the JFK assassination, which was 63. But as time went on, you had like Watergate and the Vietnam War and like all this other kind of stuff. So it's like people started like not trusting the government and like getting more into conspiracy theories and stuff like that. I mean, look at the movies that came out in the 70s. They're all like conspiracy thrillers, right? So, Day of the Condor and all that kind of 3 Days of the Condor.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, great movie. Robert.
And we reviewed that a while back.
Yeah.
And so a lot of movies had that. So everyone was just kind of like paranoid and thinking, well, everybody's hiding stuff from us. Which, like I said, sometimes they are, but sometimes not. Like, you can't think everybody's hiding shit from you all the time. That's no way to live your life. But I kind of feel like because of that change in the cultural zeitgeist, if you want to call it that, I kind of feel like that's what made it take off in the 70s the way it didn't take off in the late 1940s.
Well, there's also now a UFO scene.
Yeah.
And there's a market for it. You could put it on television and actually get people to watch it. You had a ready-made audience.
Yeah.
So, but that wasn't around in the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, now you make UFO shit and, like, just, it gets, like, all kind of fucking everybody to watch.
And that wasn't going to be something they were going to put on TV, really.
Yeah.
Because airtime was extremely expensive.
And they're like, this is just,
it wouldn't sell
this
products.
is just silly.
Yeah. they had stuff on there to try to sell products. They have commercials on it.
Yeah. I mean,
although they made movies.
Yeah.
And they did talk about it on the movies, but it was, like Ed Wood level shit, most of it.
Well, I
Terrible.
mean, the 50s, when I talked about this on my horror documentary that I made, like, the 50s is kind of, was the era of sci-fi, right?
Well, you had Forbidden Planet. That was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Fucking The Day
Terror
the
from
Earth
Beyond
Stood Still.
Space, yeah.
Huh?
The Terror from Beyond Space.
Yeah.
Which
Day the Earth
Aliens
Stood
kinda
Still was
based
a
on.
fucking good one about extraterrestrials. War of the Worlds. Pretty damn good. In full color.
Even though that story is much older, but
Yeah. They had flying wings in it.
Yeah.
The alien.
So I kind of feel like this shit's not coming from nowhere. I'm not saying that it's people are actually seeing the shit. I'm just saying that it's kind of a feedback loop where something comes out in fiction and it kind of seeps into the public consciousness, and then suddenly a small minority of people start seeing it in real life, and then it just kind of like feeds into itself.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I kind of feel like there's an aspect of that going on too.
One of the most accurate sci-fi movie about aliens from the 50s was actually The Blob. When you think about it, that's very plausible. A fucking meteorite. A meteor hits the ground, and in it is an extraterrestrial life form. That's just an amoeba, basically, that eats you up and gets bigger. That's possible.
And really,
microscopic life forms can survive inside fucking meteors.
yeah.
They've done all the math. They fucking did yeah. And some of that shit can be some of those microscopic organisms can live inside of a fucking rock for millions of years in there, multiplying and feeding their shit to eat in there. And they don't know they're in space. They got blown off into space because a meteor impact hit them on another planet, and they reached escape velocity, and they'd survive it.
They don't care where
Because
they are.
they don't have enough mass. They're not crushed under the high G-force. They don't have enough mass. And that shit can fucking go out, Earth has been contaminated by Mars material, and Mars has been contaminated by Earth material. They've been sneezing on each other for millions of years.
Pretty much, yeah.
Basically.
Giving each other COVID.
Yeah. Earth life might have come from Mars. You never can't tell.
Yeah, and I mean that's a very plausible scenario.
Yeah.
That's not weird at all. But yeah, what I was gonna say about the Blob, it's kind of a shame because that's such a terrifying idea.
They had too much comedy in it.
And yeah, the original one was Steve McQueen from 1958, I think that was. They kind of made it funny, like a funny teen movie, which is why I think the 1988 one is much better, because that's actually a straight up horror movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what it would be if a fucking space amoeba came there and just started absorbing people.
And that was a lot more likely.
Yeah.
That it would just a meteor hits and there's a fucking ancient space amoeba eating up people. That'd be, that would scare you. It did scare people.
I think the Blob is, out of all the movie aliens, I think the Blob is my second, maybe second or third, but I think The Thing is the scariest movie alien.
Yeah.
Because it can mimic anything and
Especially
you wouldn't know the difference.
Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, The Thing from Another World is a decent movie, but it's not anything, it's not as scary as the John Carpenter version. But, and the Xenomorph is scary too. So that's like the top three.
Yeah.
But
The Predator.
that too.
Something like that could exist.
But the thing about the Predator is that the Predator is intelligent and can be reasoned with.
Yeah, it's not a monster.
I kind of feel like the Thing and the Blob
Those are monsters.
and the Xenomorph,
Those are monsters.
you can't really reason with
No.
those. They're just going to eat your face off.
Yeah.
So, the Predator is like a being like you are.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably going to kill you, but you could maybe talk him out of it.
Well, some people negotiated with him.
Right, that's what I'm
worked out
saying.
deals.
So he's not quite as scary.
Yeah.
It's still scary, but
Yeah.
not as scary. Because he still has, like, human-like intelligence, you know what I mean?
Some people say, well, they're that advanced, they wouldn't be hunting. Shit.
Oh, that no, I don't believe
Yes,
that.
they would. The different species, they might just be fucking just into that shit.
Yeah.
And you can say, well, look at it this way: fucking rednecks are a bunch of hunters. They can't make 3-wheelers; they buy them. For all you know, the aliens like that might buy spacecraft, and they might buy technology, and then go around.
Yeah,
other
they're like,
planets.
we don't have to. We're not nerds. We don't know how to make.
Yeah,
this
they may not make it. They might just buy it because they might be in the
the nerds on the
They
planet.
might
and
be
they
one
make it.
planet in a community of
Yeah.
them. So you just
Yeah, and they trade like
they
we
trade,
do.
right?
Like I said, I don't know how to make a cell phone, but
Right.
other people know how to make them. So,
Right.
So yeah. In case you ever wondered where the alien bodies story came from, I actually didn't know this until I looked this up. But there was another crashed UFO hoax that happened only about a year after Roswell in 1948. And this happened in Aztec, New Mexico. And the details of that hoax, because it's definitely a hoax, I'll get into it a little bit. But a lot of those details became incorporated into the Roswell story later on. Like the stuff with the little gray alien bodies, the stronger metal than any Earth metal, the government cover-up angle to it. Like all of those details were present in this hoax. So since it happened only like a year, I don't even think it was a year, like not too long after Roswell, I think a lot of those details got glommed onto.
Yeah, because they started to say, well, Mac Brazel found the debris field, but he didn't find the true crash site. That was another thing that they did with this story.
Yeah.
That a few miles away, they found a saucer with, dead beings, which is a way of saying the original story wasn't good enough.
Yeah, they had to add.
They had to add another
shit.
a part 2 to it. No, the original story was always that debris that Mac Brazel found.
Yeah, just in the field.
Yeah.
That, like I said, he wasn't all that excited about. He just stuffed it.
It looked
in
like
his shed.
junk.
Yeah. It was only after somebody else suggested that it might be something important that he actually called the sheriff about it. But the Aztec, New Mexico hoax was actually perpetrated by 2 guys. I love this. Their names are Silas Newton and Leo Gebauer. I guess how you pronounce his last name. And what their scam was, it's kind of a pretty brilliant scam, I guess. But they were trying to sell, they were kind of like snake oil salesmen, but they were trying to sell stuff that was like alien technology. So in order to sell stuff that was alien technology, they had to have an alien craft somewhere where they got this shit from, right? So they started...
These guys are fucking reaching high, man.
Yeah, so they came up with this story that there was a spacecraft that had 16 alien bodies in it, and it landed near Aztec, and it was like big. It was like 100 feet like wide. It was like a big disc or whatever. And so these 2 claimed that the military had covered everything up, right? And they said that the ship came from Venus, which, okay, nobody lives on Venus, come on now, and worked on what they called magnetic principles. They did not elaborate, because I'm sure they didn't know what that meant. They said that they drank heavy water, and that they had like little food wafer type situation.
They drink heavy water because that shit it's so abundant throughout the universe.
Yeah, I guess so.
Regular water not good enough.
And all this other kind of stuff. So they came up with all this kind of crazy shit. So what these 2 guys were trying to do, why they came up with this story, was that they were trying to sell people these little things that they called doodle bugs. These little devices.
Okay.
And these devices were supposed to find gold and oil, and like I guess you could just hover them over the ground or something like that. But their claim was that these were alien, that they got them from the alien spacecraft or from the aliens, and then they were trying to sell them to dumb people. And it did work, unfortunately, because people are morons. But oh yeah, totally.
How much they paid?
I don't know. But yeah, it's like, yeah, we totally got these out of an alien spacecraft. And now a couple people were skeptical, thankfully, and said, hey, can I have some metal from, the ship or whatever? And it's like, so they gave him some, but it was just regular ass aluminum, like just
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Now some people, at least one person did fall for this, and it was a millionaire, which is pretty hilarious. I can't even be mad at it because I'm like, if you're that fucking stupid, you kind of deserve to lose your money.
That one Lear guy is a millionaire who really buys in to any UFO thing. What was his name? John Lear? I think that's his name.
Man, I need to sell some of these dumb billionaires like some alien technology.
Yeah, he kind of like inherited the
If they're
Learjet
that
corporate
fucking
company,
stupid.
and he'll believe anything about UFOs.
What's his email address?
He's probably dead now.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, if
He'd
anybody
be pretty
knows,
old by now.
if anybody knows any email addresses of like really stupid rich people, let me know. I'll see what kind of scam I can.
I think he might have had something to do with the Skinwalker Ranch. I think he bought into that.
Oh yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
That is also bullshit.
Yeah.
But we did a show about that a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this one guy who was a millionaire, he actually did. I don't know how much he paid for these doodlebug things. But he was apparently mad enough that he sued the two guys for fraud, and he won. So that was like in the 1950s. I was like, man, I would be like so embarrassed like to tell people I had fallen for that crap. But yeah, so I kind of feel like that was where the alien body story came from, because they very specifically said it was a flying saucer and it crashed and there was 16 alien bodies on it that kind of looked like your standard like gray aliens, right? And it also happened in New Mexico, and it was only like a year or something after Roswell. So I kind of feel like later researchers with bunny rabbit ears kind of glommed onto that story and kind of conflated them, probably deliberately, because it was pretty clear that this was a fraud. Yeah. They were exposed as a fraud, like in court. I don't think anyone ever saw the craft or saw the aliens. It was just these two guys saying that, and they said, oh, well, the military covered it up. You know what I mean? And people fell for it. So I kind of feel like that's probably where that came from, because it happened around the same time. And there's also the famed Hangar 18, which does not actually
not much to that
exist.
Yeah.
But that was another thing that kind of came around the same time period. Like, because...
They're talking about Groom Lake, I think.
Yeah, it's... They're like... Hangar 18 was supposedly the place where all of these alien bodies or the crashed like UFOs, that's where they... The ones that they supposedly got from Roswell, that's where they took them. And there's also kind of... Where that came from, there was a mention in a book... that the guy wrote called Behind the Flying Saucers, who actually wrote in 1949 about the two dudes and their doodlebugs with the alien technology. And he mentioned in there that the alien corpses were stored in a morgue at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Hangar 18.
I ain't buying into that.
So it was from like a bullshit book that came from, but that's where that claim came from.
Let me tell you why I don't believe that shit. Being ex-military, you know that if something's real fucking important, they're not going to let any enlisted people around that shit, because the turnover is very high. And in those days, I think an enlistment was only 2 years back then. If you have some kind of alien spacecraft and alien bodies, the military is not going to be allowed anywhere near that. Okay, it's going to be another government agency in the intelligence agencies. And then the guys actually doing the work on it are going to be private contractors. And I'd point at places like Lockheed Martin. You're going to give it to people who actually know shit about aircraft and technology. You're not going to give it to a bunch of government fucks. And you're not going to give it to military dickheads. It's going to be dudes that can actually make shit. Scientists. And all the best scientists are going to be in Lockheed Martin, McDonnell Douglas, Raytheon. And you can trust them because they're company men. They're going to be there for fucking life. You know? And it'd be compartmentalized, you know, where only certain guys would know about it. But then they'd bring talent on. And once the talent was in on that subject, they'd never really let them go. They just wouldn't. My granddad was one of these guys. He was a defense contractor for... See, General Atomics is one of the weird ones he worked for, but most of it was Grumman Aerospace. He was an aerospace engineer, he never said anything about fucking UFOs. Everything was about fucking rockets and jets. Jet propulsion. He worked for JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory, too, also. And no, it'd be guys like that. And what was funny is that one of the reasons why my granddad really was able to move through that community so easily is because he was religious. They got guys from religious schools because they knew they wouldn't sell anything to the fucking communists because the communists were atheists. So they knew exactly what they were doing. They got devout Christians, Christian fundamentalists. And here's the weird thing. He was working on a fucking atomic shit, okay? That fucking, what was that shit called? Project Orion, external nuclear combustion rocket. That was one of the things that he was working on. They pulled the plug on it, though. He's working on that rocket, and this dude believes crazy shit from the Bible.
That blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know it happens because now generally most scientists, depending on the discipline, are at least agnostic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there are some examples of scientists that are religious, and that is very weird to me. But like
Isaac
I said,
Newton was one of them.
Well, yeah, but I mean that was a long time ago, so
ago.
it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in the modern era when you don't really have an excuse. But weirdly, one thing, and I don't know if this still holds true or not, but I remember reading this a while back, that it's like one of your, like, and I'm talking like fundamentalist, like creationist type, like religious people, that it's like, if they are scientists, they tend to be engineers, which I thought was very,
Numbers,
was very interesting. I guess it's easier to compartmentalize in that.
He'd be...
You don't see too many biologists that are... that are fundamentalists, that's for sure.
No, my granddad was a nerd. Super nerd. Carried fucking little fucking, what was that thing? Slide rules and fucking round thing about doing half-lives and weird shit like that. You know, mechanical computers. And, but that dude was fucking a fundamentalist. He was super into fucking the Book of Revelations and trying to crack that code. And fucking, crazy. He believed, wouldn't have a television in the house. Because it was like the box of the devil.
That's hardcore.
Yeah,
box of the devil.
Box of the devil.
That sounds dirty.
And it's that's a lot of the fucking defense contracting companies in that fucking aviation aerospace field preferred those kind of guys because they were patriotic. They keep their fucking mouth shut. They wouldn't fucking sell any of their knowledge to the Soviets because they were atheists. So you could trust them. If they came out of a university. Like a big fucking university up in fucking... They did have some, but they couldn't trust them all because they tended to be communist. Back then, in the 50s and the 60s. They had those kind of leanings. They say Oppenheimer, what's his name, Oppenheimer? Oppenheimer, they believe he actually sold shit to the Soviets. And he was a guy like that. So they went with fucking devout Christians.
Interestingly, my... paternal grandfather worked at NASA, and my maternal grandfather worked at the Pentagon.
Both religious?
No.
No? Okay.
I was going to say, that's what I was going to say. Yeah. Neither one of them was religious.
Okay, yeah.
Particularly. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Not that I ever, I mean, they weren't super fundamentalists about it if they were. I never heard them talking about anything
the defense
that.
Contract
and they never told me about aliens either.
The defense contracting scene, fucking McDonnell Douglas, Grumman Aerospace, fucking JPL and everything, they had a thing for religious engineers.
Yeah, well, like I said, there's still... So I'm trying to think now, because for a while, like I said, I was real into all the anti-creationist stuff. And I think one of the dudes they have that's like the big guy in like intelligent design, or used to be back in the day, Michael Behe, I think his name is. And they were really tout. He's an actual scientist. Well, he's an engineer. He's not a biologist.
Yeah.
He's not an anthropologist. He's not anything like that. So it's just kind of like, you know, and a couple of them are some like dentists or chiropractors or something like that.
There's something about heavy mathematics. Those guys tend to be kind of religious, or there's some or
they're more likely to be religious than other scientific disciplines.
Right. Something about rigidity, probably.
I think that's probably what it is, because I mean, there has to be a reason why all of the scientists that creationists put forward as being like, hey, we've got some scientists too. Like almost all of them tend to be engineers.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a rigid.
Or they have fake degrees
Fake
from
degrees, right? But this was
online
this was several
diplomas.
generations back, though.
that happens.
This
too.
was several generations back, so you know what I mean. Okay, here's another thing. Howard Hughes had his own intelligence agency, security agency that ran his empire, and he recruited them specifically from the Mormons because he said they were trustworthy. And so his whole fucking security apparatus was the Mormons. And after his death, the Mormon Church all of a sudden got real rich. They don't know fucking.
I wonder how that could have happened.
Yeah, some money got transferred. Some of that Hughes Empire money.
Yeah, maybe so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he told them
LDS,
that
man,
beforehand,
Church of Latter-day Saints was heavily involved with fucking Howard Hughes.
He's kind of like, hey man, I'll take care of you after I.
And Hughes had his own aviation wing too, aviation technology. He was working on heat-seeking missiles before anyone else. He was motherfucker was brilliant, crazy but brilliant. Too many head injuries.
Well, sometimes those two things go together.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Well, he had like 7 or 8 major head injuries.
Yeah.
And wouldn't get treatment for them.
That's not good.
No.
I mean, that's your brain in there. You kind of need that, so might want to get that looked at.
Car wrecks and airplane wrecks.
Yeah.
But back to the thing. If they had any alien technology, the military government wouldn't have it. It would be in the hands of fucking aerospace contractors. And they could keep the secret. And they'd know what it was they would know what it was they were dealing with, or they would have a greater chance of understanding what they were dealing with. But man, if you're talking about something 100,000 years more advanced than us, they wouldn't figure it out.
We probably wouldn't, sadly.
No, because that'd be like giving a fucking fighter jet to a bunch of Neanderthal. They never figured that out. They wouldn't even understand what fuel was and how to make fuel. You know, they wouldn't know what a turbine blade was, or any of the mathematics behind it, or all the machinery and the technology you need to build a jet. They wouldn't have any of that. They wouldn't have the infrastructure. You could say, okay, look, man, here's a jet. Make a copy. They'd be like, okay. Go get that obsidian blade.
Carve one out of wood.
Yeah.
Like a cargo cult.
Why
ain't no flag?
Yeah, it doesn't fly.
This is not working.
They'd have a hard time making a wooden glider.
You guys are so stupid.
Yeah.
Your shit doesn't work. It's like a cargo cult. But
yeah, you couldn't even give that to an ancient Roman.
Yeah.
And an ancient Roman might be able to figure out what it was, but they couldn't reproduce it.
Yeah, Eric Red says, most sci-fi we enjoy, 90% is Mormon writers are very closely related to Mormonism. Or are very closely associated with Mormonism, like Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, yeah.
I have heard that. Like I said, it's just kind of... I don't know. It all kind of goes together, maybe? I'm not real sure.
Interest in the heavens.
I
Interest in
suppose
God's
that's what it
creation.
is.
That
I
kind of
probably...
We get another one?
Yeah, I mean, just if you're up, might as well. But yeah, so the guy, I think his name was Frank Scully, that wrote about the 2 scam artists that did the alien bodies thing in Aztec, selling the doodle bugs. So he writes this book, Behind the Flying Saucers, I think in 1959. And then the stuff that was in that book, which was supposedly nonfiction, became the basis for a fictional book that came out in 1968 that was called The Fortec Conspiracy. And this book was about, like, an Air Force unit that was reverse engineering alien technology, right? So some of this stuff is coming from fictional stories, you know what I mean? And I think that that's kind of where the Hangar 18 idea might have come from as well. So all of this stuff is kind of bubbling around the surface, and like some of it is kind of getting glommed onto the Roswell story, which, like I said, didn't really get traction until probably the late 70s. However, in 1974, there was a science fiction writer whose name was Robert Spencer Carr. And he was the one that came out and said that the alien bodies from the Aztec crash, which, like I said, was a hoax, were stored in Hangar 18 at Wright-Patterson. And he also went a little bit further and said that his source for this information, had also said that they had witnessed the good old alien autopsy. So alien autopsy idea comes from 1974, like from this book here, like from this guy's story. So that was another thing that, like I said, later got glommed, because nobody, in the original Roswell reports, nobody said anything about a crashed UFO, really. Nobody said anything about alien bodies. That was a much later addition. And I think a lot of it came from here. And this is where the alien autopsy shit started in 1974 with this guy. So the Air Force came out and said, you can't obviously believe everything they say, because they're going to, like, give you misinformation sometimes too. But they said, look, we don't have a Hangar 18. And your shit sounds just like that fictional book, The Fortech Conspiracy, that came out in 1968, where we're reverse engineering alien technology and all that business. They did actually make a movie called Hangar 18 in 1980, which was on MST. Yeah. It was on I think it was like the earliest, either season 1 or like the KTMA season.
I've seen that shit a million times.
It's not a terrible movie, but it's not fantastic either. I remember it being kind of boring, honestly.
It didn't hold up.
I'd be curious to see it again, but
you could cut that movie down to 15 minutes.
Yeah, I saw it on MST, and I just remember it being kind of boring. Yeah. So I kind of feel like the Roswell story didn't really take off until 1978. But there was like all this stuff that was leading up to it, right? So in 1978, Stanton Friedman, who was a scientist, but he was also really into UFO stuff, and he interviewed Jesse Marcel, who was one of the guys back in the 1940s who had seen the wreckage at Roswell. And he had gone to Fort Worth and was in the press conference and everything like that. Now, in this interview, he was much older, obviously, but he said that he admitted that the weather balloon story was a cover story, which is true. But he also said that he thought that the debris was extraterrestrial, which is probably not true. So there's that. But this, I kind of feel like because all of this stuff had been leading up to this, and then when this came out, it was kind of like this big, because here's this guy who was there. He was there, you know what I mean? And he's saying, well, now I think it was aliens, you know what I'm saying? And so he got interviewed again, but he got interviewed by the National Enquirer. So I don't really know how much trust you want to put in that situation, because they just like make shit up a lot of the time. But they published a story about it and published the interview. And Jesse Marcel, in this interview for the National Enquirer, specifically added the detail of the metal that you could crumple up in your hand and then release it, and then it would uncrumple like without any wrinkles. And I remember seeing him talk about this on In Search Of, and I kind of feel like that was another thing that, because a lot of people saw that show. I saw it, like, yeah. So a bunch of people were talking about it, and he did actually mention the thing about crumpling up the metal, like, on that show. And that was in September of 1980 that it was on In Search Of. So there was that. So, like I said, you have a guy who was present at the original incident now saying that he believes that it's extraterrestrials, and perhaps, I don't know. I don't know if he's adding details on that weren't there or something like that.
That 1980 In Search Of is what I remember seeing.
That's yeah, and we just actually watched that again not too long ago.
Where I first saw it, yeah, it's actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. I love In Search Of, even if most of the stories they do are complete bullshit.
Yeah,
but there's just something really creepy about it, and I love Leonard Nimoy. You know,
yeah,
he's my guy.
Leonard Nimoy fucking he gives it some gravitas. Like
he made that show. Like if somebody else had hosted it, it wouldn't have worked. I don't think.
No.
But the fact that he's on there. And just the way they shot it was like super creepy. I used to love that show. And I think we just watched a bunch of them again, like not too long ago.
Yeah, and they never really came down one side or the other. They kind of left it up to you.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, isn't this weird?
Weird shit. Maybe something happened. We don't know. That kind of shit.
Yeah. And it's they did try to make it seem mysterious because they're trying to make a show.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the stuff nowadays they're like, well, that's obviously not mysterious. I think like I watched one the other day about the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's nothing mysterious about the Shroud of Turin, but it's like, and everybody knows that now. I think like some people are still arguing about it, but I'm like, that's pretty much been figured out.
It's a hoax.
Yeah.
An ancient hoax, though, from medieval.
Yeah, it was medieval. They made it in the Middle Ages. And there was a lot of that shit going on back then.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize how
much
chicanery was going on.
There was a whole industry of holy relics.
Oh, yeah. There was money to be made.
If you came up with some good holy relics, the church would buy it. They go, oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. They would buy it knowing it was fake. They wouldn't care.
You got a foreskin? Nice.
Yeah. anything to help the faithful.
Yeah.
Say, okay, yeah.
And that's how they justified it.
Yeah.
They didn't care if it was real or not.
It's called pious deception.
Yep.
It's been going on for a long time.
They didn't even consider it lying, really.
No, because they're trying to save souls.
Yep. It's funny to me that that's how they look at it.
Yeah.
But I kind of get it. But, well, the thing about it with the Shroud of Turin, too, it's like that's not even the only one like that.
There's more?
I think there's more than one.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was, and they've demonstrated, like, how they could have made it.
It could have been a primitive photograph. Something,
I think it was a bas relief.
Yeah.
Is what I think. Just like that they scrubbed over like a...
Maybe, yeah.
Like a flat kind of...
They can't tell what it is. It's some kind of chemical burn. Seems to be.
Although a lot of the shit on it is just paint.
Yeah, well, paint might make a chemical burn, though, too.
Yeah.
Depends on what it was that they used.
Yeah.
Could be that the paint is long gone, and the only thing that's left is the fucking chemical burn that the paint left behind. Some kind of ancient paint. Might have piss in it, for all you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's not...
You're right.
Well, that's the thing. Like, all the paint they used back then was, like, super toxic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can't... My ex-husband was a oil painter, and he liked to use... He was real into Rembrandt and stuff, so he liked to use the same stuff.
Yeah.
And you can get it, but it's dangerous. You know what I mean? Like lead white and stuff like that. It's lead. They won't let you have that. But you have to get the powder and mix it with like linseed oil yourself. Mm-hmm. It's not like it comes in a tube.
Yeah.
You know, you got to mix it.
Got to make the paint.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a lot. That's why a lot of artists were crazy. Because it gave them brain damage. Like all the chemicals, and that's like not even a joke. It totally did.
Like hatters.
And mercury. Yeah, that too. That too. I mean, people handled all kind of horrible chemicals, like without knowing what was going on. No wonder they were all nuts.
No, Pope.
What are you
trying
doing?
to tear your shoes up?
She always does it. I can't stop her.
Don't do it, Pope.
But yeah, so Jesse Marcel, he was the one you were probably talking about earlier, whose son, who at the time was 10 years old, was also interviewed.
Jesse Marcel,
and said that his dad had shown him this debris.
Yeah. Now,
one of the things that he said, though, was that, and I think this was maybe on In Search Of, too, because I kind of remember this. He said it was a small beam with purple-hued hieroglyphics on it. And I remember them, on In Search Of being like, ooh, look how weird this is.
And it was like an I-beam, a plastic I-beam.
Yeah, like, it was like plastic or wood, I can't remember, something like that.
Plastic. He said it was white.
Yeah, it was white with, like, these purple, quote-unquote hieroglyphics on it. But it turned out, after the Project Mogul thing was declassified, that it was adhesive tape that just had like little flowers and shit on it, like from a toy store, like a toy company in New York that made this tape.
I don't think they made it. I thought it was from Japan.
No, it was from New York.
Or was it? Okay.
As far as I know. That was the toy company that they got it from.
Yeah.
That tape.
And it was purple, had purple pattern on it with a bunch of geometric shapes.
Yeah, it was like little
X's
flowers,
and zeros
little
and
X's
flowers and shit like that.
Yeah.
It was like nonsensical. I saw a photograph of it. So he might have thrown the two things together. It was kind of like a white balsa type wood or light colored wood, and it had some tape with the pattern on there. And his memory, either that or he lied, but his memory might have jumbled the two things together. The hieroglyphs were not on the beam; they were on the tape.
Yeah.
Now, this tape was all taped together. They were handmade. It was a bunch of old ladies making them, from what I remember.
Yeah, I think it was.
Old ladies sat
they were
around
just
making
made of like fucking tape and wood and shit like that. It wasn't like any big
making balloons.
Tech. Yeah, that's all it was.
And the old ladies probably didn't know what kind of balloon it was. They were probably told that it was a weather balloon.
Yeah, it's like, here you go, Grandma, just like make these. But we'll say, so that was So if the kid remembered the hieroglyphics on there, I mean, when they declassified Project Mogul later on, there's like, okay, yeah, we did have some tape that had these little purple flowers and shit like that on it. We got it from this toy company. And so he is remembering that, right? He's just saying that it's alien hieroglyphics when it's just like little symbols, like on a piece of tape. Like it was just like a fun little, like you can get at a craft store. You know what I mean? It just looked like that. So that's all
I think the hieroglyphic stuff actually got spilled over into the Rendlesham Forest case.
Yeah.
Where one of the guys said he saw the little black fucking probe craft sitting there on the ground and it had the hieroglyphs on it. But he's the only guy that said he saw that. Nobody else from that case said they saw that craft. And there was another guy with him. He says he didn't want to talk about it. Which makes me think that that guy made that up. Colonel Holt saw the lights in the sky. He recorded that. But he didn't see a little probe on the ground. I'm not even sure that was the same day.
Yeah, I think we did a show a couple Christmases back, several Christmases back, about Rendlesham Forest because it happened on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve or something.
But he described it the same way, the hieroglyphic looking stuff.
I always kind of wonder, though, is that just what they're expecting to see?
Yeah.
And so they're just seeing something on there and be like, oh, hieroglyphics, like it must be a language or something. I mean, it could be lots of things.
Well, they're kind of they're trying to imagine what an alien language would look like. And they're going back to ancient Egypt and the hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wouldn't have the same impact if they said, well, it looked like Japanese. Or it looked like Chinese.
Yeah.
They would, think, you full of shit.
Yeah, I guess hieroglyphics.
It's got to be
like
weirder than that.
Yeah, or like Mayan or something.
Yeah, it looked like Arabic.
Yes, it's got to be weirder than Japanese.
Yeah. It's got to be weirder than Japanese and Arabic. So they say hieroglyphics.
Yeah, or like some kind of pictograph.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Which is one of the things I actually liked about... What was that sci-fi movie we watched the other day that came out a few years back? Shit, it was just like one word.
Sightings?
No, the one with the octopusy aliens, the octopus-like aliens that did the ink.
Yeah. What was the name of that?
Arrival,
yeah.
I like that they did the alien language like that.
Yeah.
Because it was really alien.
Yeah, just like a bunch of smears.
Like they figured it out eventually. But they were like octopus but they were like shooting ink and like making these like smudgy looking
circles and
like
squares,
circles with like different smears on them that meant different things and stuff like that. And I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, holy crap, you'd never be able to figure that out. But I mean, I guess they did figure it out. But it took
AI can figure it out.
They could probably figure it out after a while. You can figure anything out if you have long enough. But yeah, I did like that they set the... Because, every movie, I kind of feel like a lot of sci-fi movies, like you said, they always wanted to look like hieroglyphics because it's kind of cool looking, but, would it necessarily look like that? Maybe not.
Not a really efficient way to write.
It's not, honestly.
It's kind of primitive. Same with, Mayan glyphs. It's basically emojis.
They're fucking cool looking, though.
They're real cool looking, but they're emoticons and emojis is what they are. That have data in them. You have to know what it is. It's not phonetic.
Yeah, they don't... Yeah, that's what's weird about them is that they don't represent a sound.
No. It's
like
concepts,
in most of the...
words.
Yeah. And like if you stack certain ones on top of other things, like it means a particular
thing. The amount of
thing.
feathers on the side means something, and and the face, and you have to recognize what that face is and what it's looking like. You have to know who that is to understand what the glyph means. It's an emoji.
Yeah, essentially.
If you had a bunch of emojis and you were an alien, you wouldn't understand any of those what any of that shit meant.
That's why maybe we should send some emojis to the aliens. They would know what that meant probably.
Yeah. Although the Egyptian stuff was actually phonetic. It was.
It was both.
It was both.
It was phonetic and pictographic.
Yeah.
Which is kind of more complicated.
Yeah.
Like it could mean either thing or both things. Like at the same time.
You can't really say primitive and advanced. It's just that I would say that the Maya stuff and Aztec stuff was more primitive because it's harder to write.
Yeah.
You're making pictures. But it's more advanced in terms of it's quite artistic.
It's really cool.
It's a bunch of emojis. Yeah.
Like I said, if you go there's a great museum in South Florida, like in Tampa, and they have a bunch of Mayan stuff there. And all I can think of every time I see some of those Mayan, like the rocks and stuff, like where they carved. I was like, that must have taken fucking forever.
Yeah, and I think
Holy shit.
I think some of those Mayan glyphs though were phonetic because they did spell out names.
Yeah.
So you just had to know what the glyph. I think they did have the beginning. It was a bunch of stuff. It was like an emoji, but it also could represent a sound.
Yeah.
You had to know what it was.
Well, like I said, the Egyptian hieroglyphics
they were like that,
that too.
Yeah.
So, you know. Okay, so there was that. So there was the In Search Of episode. That's where we went off on a tangent because we were talking about fucking Shroud of Turin. But there was that. That came out in 1980. A lot of people saw that. But then there was a book that came out in 1980, which was written by Friedman, who I mentioned earlier, and his friend Bill Moore. And they got this guy, Charles Berlitz, who had written a bunch of stuff about, like, the Bermuda Triangle and the Philadelphia experiment and all that kind of stuff. So they all, like, collaborated on this book called The Roswell Incident. And in this book, they kind of did a deep dive into Marcel's story and added the alien bodies thing. So this might have been the first publication, like, a major book where the alien bodies became part of the Roswell story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because Marcel never said that there was bodies. He did say later on that he didn't say at the time in 1947 that he thought that the crash stuff, the debris, was extraterrestrial. But in 1978, 1979, he thought that that it was, or at least he was saying that. But he never said that there was any bodies.
Yeah. And nowadays,
but they said that in the book, though.
And nowadays, when I hear fucking biological entities, fucking bodies, nowadays I fucking disbelieve it even more because now that we know, AI and shit, if fucking biological entities are not suited really to space travel.
We're just meatbags.
They don't live long enough to cross any distance. Even if you had fucking faster than light travel, even that, if you could go the speed of light, it's still too slow. You have to have like fucking Star Trek warp drive, where you're going many times the speed of light. That would be fast enough for a human lifespan. Chances are, any alien that could get here is not going to be biological. It's going to be AI. We call it AI, artificial intelligence. This might just be I. It's just a machine intelligence. They're very advanced, and it's alive, just not biologically. So it can't age. So that means it doesn't need speed. It doesn't care if it fucking takes 3 million years to get there. Just doesn't give a shit.
Like he has anything better to do.
They got nothing better to do. Fucking, and he could go to sleep for that amount of time, and really it doesn't matter. It only matters if you got something back home that you have to get back to in a certain amount of time. But if you don't have that, let's say your home planet's long gone. You know what I mean? There's nothing to go back to. You can only move forward in time. You know what I mean? Fucking, you don't care if you fucking sleep for 3 million years because there's trillions of years in the future. Whatever. Then you don't need faster than light travel. That's just more likely. You don't need an atmosphere or food. You don't need anything. Maybe energy source, but you got solar. You could get around a star and get some energy, and then go on to your little trip. So the chances that when they start throwing around these biological entities, I'm more apt to call bullshit on it because I think it's less likely. What's more likely is a machine intelligence.
Eric Red said, I don't like working with AI. It's impossible to reason with it. Yeah, I work with it sometimes if I need a very specific piece of art, like for an ad that I'm doing and I don't feel like looking for it, like in one of my, stock photo things. But it's really, really difficult, especially if you want something kind of specific and kind of complicated. You really have to go through a bunch of iterations before you get something that's usable. Because you can tell a person something and they'll understand what you're talking about. But the AI doesn't. You have to be really careful like how you word it. And if there's too many like compound sentences, it confuses everything. And So it's just kind of difficult. I have seen some really cool shit like come out of AI, but that's usually if you're just like not too worried about the end product. Like if you're just kind of like, hey, make me a cool thing with this simple thing, and then it does it really well. But if you want something like really specific, yeah, that's gonna take a while.
And to be clear, that's not the AI I'm talking about. Alien AI would be on par with fucking the monolith out of fucking 2001. It would be a godlike, vast intelligence that just sees you as a bug in comparison to it. It's ancient. It's far in excess of human intelligence, and it's not biological. It's like a god. You know, it can know things we couldn't even imagine about space and time and the fabric of space and time. You know, shit like that.
Victor says, I use AI to catfish old ladies on Christian Mingle and get them to send me their retirement savings. That's a good idea, actually. Maybe I should look into that. But I need to scam somebody out of some money. But yeah. So let's see. Okay, so in this book, like I said, they added the whole thing with the alien bodies, even though Marcel didn't say anything about alien bodies, but they decided they were going to like add that in the book anyway. And they also put in kind of another thing that comes up a lot in Roswell circles, which is this lady named Lydia Sleppy, I think is her last name. And she worked at a radio station. She was like a teletype operator at a radio station in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And her story is that she was actually typing out a story about the crashed saucer, and then a message came in telling her to stop talking about her, stop typing. But the story that she came up with, they later found out, couldn't have happened like the way that she said that it happened. But it was kind of, there were like a lot of stories going around of like people that said, you know, we had people threaten our lives and, you know, tell us to come over our phone and tell us to stop talking to people about it and stuff like that. I'm not really sure how much, because they know that this woman's story, they're like, well, the way she described it, it couldn't have happened that way. Because of the shit she said about the teletype machine and like all this other kind of stuff, they're like, it couldn't have happened like that because it didn't work that way. But, you know what I mean? And the problem, too, is that, you know, their book, The Roswell Incident, that came out in 1980, that was just the first one. There was a bunch more that came out in the 80s and into the early 90s, and a lot of the people that were either really at the Roswell Incident or said they were gave conflicting reports of what they had seen and what had happened. So I kind of feel like what we're seeing is some people jumping on the bandwagon.
They're like the nurse.
Is
the woman that said that she saw all the fucking... No, it was a dude who said he knew a nurse that worked there, and that she told him that she saw the bodies.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Is that some of the people weren't there, but they said, oh, well, I knew somebody
that was there.
Or said they
that's
were
not
there and told
admissible
me.
In court.
Yeah, it's not. That's just like secondhand.
Yeah.
I'm like, because any motherfucker can tell you anything they want.
Yeah. You're not there, you don't know.
You're not there, you don't know that didn't happen. So you know, I'm just kind of like...
Yeah, and guys would know that. I think he was some kind of reporter himself or something. They said that. A guy... That gives you license to make up a story.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it, but dude told me. That gives you license to make some shit up.
And the person that I know that story that you're talking about, like with the nurse, and he gave a fake name, and then when people came back and say, "Hey, that's a fake name," he's like, "Yeah, well, this is her real name, but that was a fake name too."
Yeah. And so and she said she moved off the base right after it happened. She was so upset because he was trying to cover his tracks.
I mean,
never saw her again. That kind of shit.
Like I said,
she didn't exist. He made that up.
And I'm not saying that everybody that has a story like that is making it up. I'm just saying that if there's too many coincidental details, oh, well, a person told me this, but then they left and you can't get hold of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a little suspicious. I mean, you know, forgive me for like not really wanting to believe you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I want to ask this person
always
directly.
Stick with the original fucking report. That's going to be closest to the truth, even though that might be slightly distorted.
Yeah, I mean, anything can be distorted even
Yeah.
at the time just because of people's biases or,
Yeah.
maybe people are at the time are reporting something secondhand and they didn't see it themselves or something like that. And like I said, even if somebody saw something themselves, they could be seeing it wrong or misinterpreting what they're seeing. There's a lot of different things that could go wrong.
There's good cases out there. The Phoenix Lights. But you got to go to the original fucking witnesses and the fucking women that were at the fucking 911, the 911 phone calls they were getting. The governor, Fife Symington, I think is what his name was. Wasn't that? Or Fife Symington,
like
I think. He said he saw it later on. He said he saw it. But that was a good case. Although there's bad shit in it. Shit got added on. Len Kitai started to add a bunch of shit to it. You want to stick with the fucking original stuff. And it's the same for the fucking... There was one, it was called UFO over Illinois, where like 2 different police departments were chasing down this damn
We did a show about
flying triangle thing. They even got a picture of it, but all you can see is the lights. You can't see because all they had was a stupid Polaroid in the trunk of the police car. That was something that they actually saw. But there's a chance that wasn't extraterrestrial. There's a chance that could have been some kind of reconnaissance Zeppelin or something. Some kind of a fucking lifting body. He said he could hear the engines of it. Sounded like a humming. That might be electric fans in there. You never can't tell. It had a light display on the back of it. It could take off at a high rate of speed. And then the other cops saw it. And their radio traffic all checks out that, these guys were in the flight path, and when they fucking said, "Hey, I see that thing," that was something that was real. You think it was called UFO over Illinois?
Yeah, we did a show about that a long time ago.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I kind of feel like now. I was gonna say that nowadays, whether you see UFOs or ghosts or whatever the fuck. It's like now there's no excuse because it's like, oh, all I had was a Polaroid camera in the trunk of my car and I can only get this one shitty picture.
Yeah.
It's like now you have like a powerful supercomputer in your pocket, get some good fucking pictures of it. But on the other side of that, now it's super easy to just fake shit.
Yep.
So
which kind of counteracts it.
You still can't trust anything that you
Yeah.
see. Like if you like a photo or a video or anything like that. And I don't even really do a lot with like video AI or anything like that, but I've been using Photoshop for like almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And you want a Photoshop of pretty much anything, I can do it for you.
Yeah. I've seen some badass fucking UFO videos off of cell phones. But you look at it and you go, man, that's almost too good to be true. Because it probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they faked it.
Yeah. And like it's super easy to fake stuff now.
So that just kind of mitigates the fact. Well,
that's what I mean. It's like we're in the same boat.
Back in the same boat
as we were before. Like back then, it's like nobody had cameras or the cameras were really shitty.
Yeah.
Now we have really good cameras, but it's super easy to fake shit.
Yeah.
So we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah. Like there is a video of the real Phoenix Lights, not the fucking flares that happened later. The Air Force dropped some flares. There is a video of the fucking triangle itself, and you could hear people talking about it. But the thing is the quality is so bad you can't. All you see is like 5 lights and a staticky background, and you can hear the people talking about it. Like, look at that thing, but you can't really see it clearly. But it's definitely a real video. They're videotaping something, but they never use it on any of the UFO shows because it looks so shitty. They're going to show you the fucking flares. I think that's a real video.
Yeah.
Because the quality's so bad. I said, that's probably it. They're talking about
it.
Look at that thing.
If they were going to fake it, you'd think they'd make it at least slightly better.
Yeah, if they're going to fake it, it was going to look better. Because the camera's in low light, and they're trying to focus on a distant object. And you can see the 5 lights along the leading edge, but you can't see the craft. And you can see it slowly turning. It was kind of spooky looking, and it's like on a background of static. Black static is what it looks like. And it's on YouTube, but it's hard to find. Because there's so much shit that is labeled as Phoenix Lights. Real video. And it's got like the date and the time in the lower right-hand corner, like the old VHS tape, the cameras that they had back then. The old VCRs. No, what they call VHS tape cameras. It was a low-quality camera. And the witnesses said they saw the thing to go get the camera, and they went and they got it, and they were fucking trying it, but they couldn't get a good clear shot of it. And it's on there a long time. It's like 3 or 4 minutes of it, and then it slowly kind of disappears, going away.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like a lot of times if you did actually record something that was, you know, spontaneous, that was actually weird,
Yeah.
it probably wouldn't look that impressive.
No.
And people are expecting it to look impressive, so you're going to get inundated by people faking shit to make it look better. Or, you know, or conflating like other things that aren't that with what you were originally
Yeah,
talking
you can
about.
hear the family talking about little kids in the background, you know, and he's going, "What is that thing?" And he goes, "It's huge." And they're like, you know, and they go, "I don't know. What is that thing?" And it's a UFO. Yeah, that kind of shit, you know. But, you know, you can tell that it's spontaneous.
Yeah.
And the
But
quality
it just doesn't look like much of anything.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything.
And I think that's probably why
They never show it. Yeah.
they never show it. And, you know, there's been other stuff conflating
Yeah.
because it doesn't look that impressive. But I kind of feel like the real shit wouldn't look that impressive, which is why people feel the need to fake stuff. Because people are expecting it to look like a movie, I guess. And most shit doesn't look like that. It just looks kind of boring and mundane. But yeah, so the story in this book, I believe, was that the alien craft was observing nuclear activity. Because remember how I said that this base that was here in Roswell, near Roswell, was at the time, you know, the only place where they, you know, did the nuclear weapons, right? Or that could send out the nuclear weapons, I guess. Or distribute them, whatever. I can't think of the word. But, so they said that the aliens were doing that, and then the ship got struck by lightning. That was the story, and crashed. And then, you know, obviously they collected all the bodies and stuff like that. Like I said, there was some stuff about reverse engineering the technology and shit like that, too. They also claimed in this book that, because there are photographs of Marcel and like of some other people that handled the debris that that the dude found in the field back in 1947, which just looks like regular ass shit. It doesn't look like anything that exciting. And the book claims that these photos, not that the photos have been switched, but that they took another set of photos with like mundane stuff and not the real thing. You know what I mean? Like they claimed that, which there's no proof of that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. They're just saying that that they switched them out. Now, the thing about this book, though, is that the dudes that wrote it, they say, and I think it's on the blurb on the back of the book, where they say they interviewed almost 100 witnesses that saw some shit. However, in the actual book, there's only quotes from about 25 people, only about 25 witnesses, and only 7 of this 25 said they actually saw the debris firsthand. Whether they did or not, I don't know. But only 7 of these supposed 100 that they interviewed said that they actually saw the debris. 5 of them said they actually touched it. And the thing about it is that they're adding all the stuff about the alien bodies and the hieroglyphic writing and all that other kind of stuff. And that was from the Aztec crash, which was a hoax from 1948. And that was from that book that came out in 1949. So, like I said, I kind of feel like they're conflating those things into one book to make it more sensational. And it worked because that was like a huge success, that book was. And that was probably what propelled the Roswell story, I feel like, into the mainstream definitively. Like, because I know a lot of people saw that In Search Of episode, because I for sure saw it. But I think it was that book that really kind of that did the thing, you know? That happened in the same year. It was 1980. Now, the guy that originally found the debris, Mac Brazel, he actually died a long time before any of this stuff ever got famous. Like, he died in 1963. So, for the book, the authors interviewed his children, who were grown by then, obviously. Now, his son said that Mac had been arrested by the military and swore him to secrecy. However, they found out later that this was not true. because Mac Brazel was seen by multiple people when he was supposedly in military prison or whatever. And he was even on the radio, like, a few times, like, being interviewed when he was supposedly incarcerated. So there was that, too. His daughter seemed a little more down to earth. She was actually 14 years old, and she said she had seen the debris, and this was her quote. "There was what appeared to be pieces of heavily waxed paper and a sort of aluminum-like foil. Some of the metal foil pieces had a sort of tape stuck to them, and when they were held up to the light, they showed what looked like pastel flowers."
Yeah.
So that's kind of what a Project Mogul balloon looked like, with the tape and the foil and all that other kind of
Cellophane
stuff.
kind
So
of
she didn't
skin.
say that it looked like an alien craft. She just described what she saw when she was 14, and they said that's
Earthly
pretty much,
materials.
That's pretty much what it sounds like.
Phantom says this is a great show. This is some grade A shit right here. We're just trying to keep it real. I mean, we're not going to bullshit you. I believe that there are some good UFO cases. This one's not one of them, though.
Yeah,
And a lot was made about this.
I do kind of think they took, like, the seeds
Yeah.
of something that was just like a top secret government project and made it into this big alien thing. And like I said, now, this many years later, Roswell is synonymous with aliens, and the whole town's economy is based on aliens, I feel like.
For me, I'm more into military and police sightings. Those cases tend to be pretty good, like the French gendarmerie when they saw the Belgian wave, some of the shit that happened around France. That was a fucking good case. Some of the shit certain police guys, like, the fucking UFO over Illinois. Some of the airline stuff, pilots. They have more to lose, and they're more likely to be up at these hours. And it tends to more be a mass sighting where a bunch of guys saw it, And then other mass sightings. I give a little more weight to those. Like the good parts of the Phoenix Lights case. There's some bad parts because people jumped onto it and added shit. Shit like that.
It's always good to get independent witness reports that are all kind of describing the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, and that there's no contamination, because once something comes out in the press, then obviously people are going to glom onto that story, and I saw that too, and they're going to describe what they saw in the thing. So you need to go back to, like, the original. So, like, what did people say before this was a story?
Yeah.
Like, did they all say the same thing, or are they all just talking out?
There was a really good documentary on YouTube. You can probably find it free. But when I saw it, it was cut up into 5 pieces. It was called Beyond Belief. And it was several witnesses saw something passing over the town, and each witness gives their own view of what it is they saw, and they use CG to kind of reconstruct it, and they try to figure out how fast it was moving based upon the times reported, and some police saw it. It was a pretty good one. It was a triangle, and it looked different every time. It looked everybody described it slightly differently. But in general, triangle. The first guy said it looked like a flying house. Squares with lights. Then somebody else, miles away said, no, it was a triangle looking thing. And somebody else saw it stationary, and it had lights, but beamed lights, 3 of them out through the bottom. And it was just hanging there, and then it left. Just weird. It didn't do anything, just people saw it. Hovering, real slow. Now, there's a chance that could have been some kind of a stealth Zeppelin. Which they had those. They're classified. It's a fucking Zeppelin. It's going to be fucking shaped like a flying wing. It might have powered by fans. It might be nuclear powered for all you know. Which is one of the reasons why they won't talk about it. And it's probably not around anymore. Probably not needed because of the fucking drone technology that they have. Things are getting simpler and cheaper as time goes on. They're not getting more and more fantastic.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I don't know. I'm not really sure if any sci-fi writer. I'm sure at least a couple of them did, but I don't know if any sci-fi writers predicted that.
No, they can predict it getting more complicated, bigger.
But stuff isn't really getting.
It's going backwards. Fighter jets and interceptors from the fucking 60s were fucking fast, man. Some of the things were fucking Mach 2, Mach 3. You know, and they were trying to intercept fucking incoming Soviet bombers. These are fantastic jets. There's no incoming Soviet bombers. They all went away because ICBMs came out. So all those jets disappeared. You don't need fucking expensive jets anymore.
You don't need much of that shit.
You don't need any of that shit, hardly. You don't need any fucking piloted vehicles. Everything can be done with drones. All a jet does is fucking drop a bomb. That's really all it does. It doesn't even shoot down other jets half the time. Because you can do that with surface-to-air missiles. Well, now you just fucking, with hypersonic missiles, you don't even need the jet. You just launch the fucking missile from the ground. It fucking goes fucking halfway around the Earth and fucking hits the target. You know, it's going fucking Mach 14. It's on the other side of the Earth in fucking, 15 minutes. What do you need a jet for?
Yeah, you don't need it.
You don't need that shit. You don't need it. And if you want to kill something up close, you can do it with a little fucking cheap drone. The Russians and the Ukrainians are doing that. They're just taking these little fucking $400 drones and putting a fucking RPG round on the bottom of it and just running it into a tank. It works. Nobody could have predicted that.
Probably
when I was in
not.
the surf.
I mean,
No.
I'm sure there was at least one sci-fi writer that did. But I kind of feel like mostly sci-fi writers tend to take what's going on now and then complicate it further.
Yeah.
Like, because you're thinking that it's going to keep going in that direction, but not always. It doesn't always go in that
It's
direction.
a funny thing, man. Russians are practical. Same thing with Ukraine, but the Russians are practical. We have a military-industrial complex that would go, oh, wait a minute, hold on, a $400 drone? Oh, fuck no. We want a $4 million drone. We got to make money on this bitch. The Russians just take an off-the-shelf drone and fucking modify it in fucking theater and weaponize it. Fucking, they take a fucking $40 RPG warhead and fucking put that underneath the bottom of it. And those guys are good, running a joystick and looking through the fucking camera and flying that fucking drone into a tank. And effectively killing people. And then sometimes they're just dropping grenades on people, dropping mortar rounds. It's all off-the-shelf equipment. They didn't need to make a whole different supply chain and making weapons and shit. No, they just bought fucking Chinese drones that were just sold off the shelf. That's the way you should do it. That's the way you're supposed to do it. Fucking, but Lockheed Martin and fucking Boeing, they're not gonna like that. They're gonna go, no. We want a drone, but ours is gonna be the biggest, best drone fucking known to man, and it's gonna be fucking $1 million a head, and you're gonna have to fucking pay for fucking regular maintenance, and we're gonna hook that because they're into fleecing the fucking taxpayer. They're not really into giving the most efficient, effective weapon. I know I was in the military. Some of that shit they were giving us, the Soviets were making much more effective equipment for fucking 1/3 the price. Their BMPs were fucking great. Their fucking vehicles and shit, they were really good. The Soviet stuff was fucking, and it was cheap. They didn't worry about it, whether it was destroyed or not, because you destroy one, they make 4 other ones. Because the construction time was so short on those things. They just poured off the assembly lines. They didn't cost anything.
I was laughing at Victor's joke from earlier.
What do you say?
My grandpa saw the Titanic. He tried warning everyone it would sink, but they just ended up kicking him out of the theater. That's pretty good. That made me laugh. Sorry, I just thought I would have to fucking yeah. So I feel like the whole, I don't know if this is true, but the whole impetus of this book was Marcel, the guy from, who did originally handle the debris. Like, there are pictures of him doing that back in 1947, and him later coming out, 30 odd years later, and saying, now I think it was extraterrestrial. But the thing about it is that he kind of exaggerated some shit a little bit. Like, he exaggerated his educational things, like what degrees he had and stuff. And he also kind of his what happened in his military career, he embellished that a little bit too. So it could possibly be, and like I said, he didn't say anything for 31 years or more about this. And sure, they could argue that it's oh, they said they were going to kill me if I said anything or anything like that. I don't know. I'm just not really buying that. If they wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Okay? That's all I'm saying. So, I don't know. I don't get it. I'm not sure I believe it. And like I said, I think that his daughter, when she said what she saw, that sounds correct. She's like, that's what the debris looked like. And they said that's what the wreckage of a Project Mogul balloon would have looked like. So I kind of believe her more than I believe him, honestly. So there was also some stuff they brought up in the book, and this, I don't even think this came up in this book. I think this came out a little bit later in either their book or like another one. Because like I said, this one coming out, the Roswell Incident, was kind of like, woo, that just like kicked it off, man. Like there was all kind of books, and they all had like contradictory stories in them. So they're almost kind of like, for a time, like in the 80s and 90s, it seemed like the UFO community was like kind of divided a little bit on like which story they believed, you know, because there were kind of two trains of thought, roughly. They went in these two different directions with slightly different details. And so you had like people that were on one side or the other. But in 1984, somebody brought up the Majestic 12 idea, which is an ostensible organization that was supposedly this secret committee of like military guys and scientists and stuff that knew about the aliens and had been formed in 1947 after Roswell, and their whole thing was they were supposed to recover alien spacecraft and work on like reverse engineering the technology. Now the thing about Majestic 12 is that by pretty much any metric, this probably did not exist, because it seems like most of the evidence that it existed is pretty easily debunked. Like, there's all these memos and stuff like that, but they seem to be like photocopies of photographs, and like some of the signatures on them seem to have been like lifted from other documents and things like that. Like, it looks like somebody did a pretty elaborate hoax to like make people think this existed. Could it have existed? Sure, but I don't really know. But I kind of feel like this was another aspect that was added in 1984 to kind of reverse engineer, oh, the government has known about this since the 1940s, and the president, who was Truman at the time, you know, he put together this group like specifically to recover alien spacecraft and like get what they could get out of them. So, you know, and they had all these memos and stuff like that, but I don't really think this ever existed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's another thing that gets brought up a lot, like in UFO circles. And the thing about the alien bodies and the alien autopsy, I kind of feel like that started to gain a lot of traction in the 80s too. Like I said, I think the first kind of big mention of it was in the 70s, or in the very early 80s. But as the 80s went on, they were kind of like these two guys whose names were Barney Barrett and Pappy Henderson, because of course his name was Pappy. Now they were dead, but some people came forward and said they told us that, you know what I mean? Which, like I said, that's kind of bullshit like already. But they supposedly there was this guy who's a mortician, and his name is Glenn Dennis. And he said that he had got a bunch of phone calls from the Air Force Base, and they were asking him all these weird questions about preserving unusual bodies, and do you have any hermetically sealed caskets, and like all this kind of stuff. And this is what you were talking about before. This was the guy that said that a nurse had told him, so again another secondhand account, that she had seen an alien autopsy. So that was, again, where this alien autopsy thing kind of came about too, which we'll get into the alien autopsy video a little bit later. But so they did an Unsolved Mysteries episode in 1989, and they kind of talked about these kind of bullshit secondhand stories about alien bodies that were taken to Texas, right, like after this crash. And a bunch of people watched it. And they actually took that mortician's account and made it into a made-for-TV movie, which was called Roswell. And this guy, the mortician, has shown up on like tons of like documentaries and shit like that, like about the alien bodies. And it should also be noted that in 1991, him and the guy from the RAF that released the original press release in 1947, Walter Haut, him and the mortician, they opened a UFO museum in Roswell.
Because you could.
Because you could.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The market was there, and
I don't know how well it's
you
doing.
have the street cred.
Like I said, I kind of feel like Roswell, it was like a nothing, like a rural, right? In 1947, it was just like farms and shit, right? Like out in the desert.
Yeah.
And now, it's not huge, it's still pretty small. But I kind of feel like now everybody in the country knows Roswell. It's like, if you want to do alien shit, you go to Roswell.
It's a tourist trap now.
Yeah. And they have like a alien festival. I think they've had that since the 90s. They have like a yearly big festival and everything like that. So it's like, obviously they're getting a lot of tourist dollars out of it, which, like I said, you can't begrudge them, you know.
Well, it's kind of like the same thing with Loch Ness.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's like they're not going to come on and debunk, like, the one reason that all of the tourists come there and spend money.
That Loch Ness.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they're going to lean into it. And Loch Ness does it too. I don't blame them, like I said. It's like, you know, people live there. They need services. They need jobs. They need shit like that too. So if people want to come see Loch Ness or if people want to come see aliens at Roswell, then you're going to cater to that need. You know what I mean? It's like
you can have a whole museum, and you can have a mock-up of the crashed ship and the little aliens.
Yeah.
Even the diner's called Little Alien, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is alien themed.
Yeah.
Everything. Like I said, I think even the Walmart has like a UFO painted on the front.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I didn't know that.
It's
Walmart
all based on this shit.
Yeah, like I said, that's like that's their bread and butter.
Yeah.
You know. So it's just like Daytona Beach having NASCAR slapped on everything.
Yeah.
That's where their money comes from. NASCAR and bikers. So, yeah. So he said that this nurse had seen the autopsy. Like I said, it was a secondhand account. He didn't say he saw the autopsy. He said, I know this nurse. But like I said, he gave a fake name on the TV show. And then later on, they said, hey, that's a fake name. And he's like, oh, no, this is her real name. But that was a fake name, too, they found out. So, you know. So that was that. And like I said earlier, because there were all these conflicting stories in all these books that came out in the 80s, there kind of became like a little bit... It was like a religious schism, I guess, like among the UFO community. With some people believing this version of the Roswell story and some people believe in that version. Like, because some of the Roswell people did not believe that there was alien bodies. They thought that was all bullshit.
This happens in all religions.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. And like I said, that's what's kind of interesting is because you can see like the myth making happening like in real time.
Yeah.
Which I find like really fascinating. So yeah, because some of them thought the whole alien bodies thing was bullshit.
Yeah.
They thought that was just added on, which it was. But still believed that the original...
In the core idea
that it had crashed and there was a cover-up and there was a UFO. But they didn't believe there was any bodies. But there was kind of like a two...
It's like Star Wars. There's real Star Wars and then there's Disney Star Wars. A lot of the guys don't accept the Disney Star Wars. That's the news story. You know. That's just the way fucking... That's the way all fucking like lore goes. All lore goes that way. And religion is a lore.
Yeah, it's all the same. Like I said, it's kind of all the same. Like, you know, and not to disparage, it's just that humans, that's how we receive information. Humans do things, through storytelling.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody has their own preferred story.
Yeah.
And so if something happens that is not amenable to that like story or whatever, you're going to like go with this other story over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's even in the source material. You go back to the New Testament. There's 4 different gospels. They're all different because each faction wanted their story into it. So they're trying to cover all the bases. Every one of those fucking Jesus stories is different. They're only similar, but the details are very different. And then there's the Pauline material that's thrown in there. It's a greatest hits album. You know, and it's got everybody's favorite song in it.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to make all the early Christians happy.
It's like when you go to see the Rolling Stones and they always got to play their old shit, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear your new shit,
right?
Guys. But yeah, so all kind of like other stories came out. Like some people were saying, like especially with the whole dead alien bodies, some people took that idea and ran with it and wanted to like improve it. So some people even said No, man, I saw like some dead alien bodies, but there was still one that was alive that was
Yeah.
walking around.
Yeah, he was talking.
So there was that. I don't know if he was talking, but he was walking around going, "Oh no, Carl," or whatever the alien's name was. Carl, the alien. But yeah, and there were also like supposedly blueprints for the UFO. Like the Inquirer printed those. Like all this other kind of stuff. So Stanton Friedman, he was one of the original guys that had popularized the Roswell case in the 70s. He came out with the book in 1992, and he brought in some new supposed witnesses who hadn't been interviewed before, probably because they were just pulling shit out of their butt, I would imagine. And he also upped the ante, like pretty much saying it's like, no, there wasn't just one flying disc, it was two. It was two ships, and there were actually 8 aliens, and 6 of them died, but 2 of them are still alive. And they were taken into custody, like by the government that had them.
I actually think Friedman believed a lot of this.
He seemed to. He did seem like he genuinely believed it.
Yeah, I think he did.
Thank you very much for the super chat, Victor. He said, "I want to believe."
Yeah. Thanks, Vic. Friedman, from what I remember, he was the kind of guy who was like, "Well, they say this. Are they doing that?" He would leave it open, but I think he believed in a lot of it. I think he did. He thought there was a cover-up. He thought there was more to it. That the government knew more.
I mean,
I don't
maybe.
think they do.
I don't think they do either. That's
No.
the thing. It's like, and I'm not saying the government doesn't cover up shit. They do. And there was a cover-up in this case. It just wasn't as exciting as people were thinking it was.
Right now, they're constantly, fucking on YouTube, they're constantly saying, well, the government's going to disclose more, and they got new alien stuff that they're going to release, and they're going to finally do disclosure. There's never going to be a disclosure. Because I don't think they know.
No.
But they were saying they have recovered fucking materials. What they're talking about is pieces of metal that came out of supposed light on Ubatuba Beach out in fucking California. They do have some stuff that is related to some of these cases, and it is kind of weird. Like it's that piece of molten metal. It's not magnesium. What do you call it? Yeah, it might be magnesium. And the way its molecular structure is kind of strange. It would take a lot of money to make that. But you might be able to make that on accident, too, without wanting to, fucking. So they do have recovered materials. But they're not saying that they're recovered from supposed alien cases. They're not saying it's confirmed, though. There's a bunch of shit, the way they word things. It's tricky. They make you think that they know more than they do. And it's usually the person giving the message. They have shit on video. They have some fucking physical evidence. But they don't know what it is. That's what I believe.
Well, and the thing about it, too, is that one thing about YouTube is that, obviously creators on YouTube are trying to drive engagement. They're trying to get more people to watch it. Yeah. They're trying to get more people to watch ads, because they get more money. So it behooves them to make videos that people engage with, that a lot of people watch. So they're either going to be outrage, or because people love that for some reason, or it's going to be like some mysterious thing is coming out, and it's just like you watch it and it's nothing.
Well, they have an ex-military guy out.
But they have to kind of hype it up so you'll watch it. That's all they care about.
They have an ex-military guy out there right now who's fucking supposedly a whistleblower, and that was involved in some kind of project. I listened to about 15 minutes of that dude, and fucking, I was going, this guy's full of shit. I could tell he was full of shit because, one, he doesn't blink. He never fucking blinks. And he's got those crazy eyes. You know when you see a person's entire, iris, the colored part, where you got white above and below? If you have that eye, I ain't believing you.
You're probably a crazy person.
You're fucking crazy.
There is something associated with people with those eyes. With
that particular eye. Well, it's like that chick that was fucking lying her way through that fucking corporate thing about the blood test.
I want to do a show about her.
Yeah, like her. She had those eyes.
Oh, yeah.
They're the eyes of a pathological liar.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get their eyes up as wide as they can so they're trying to look innocent.
Yeah.
And believable. Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like, no, you just look like a psycho.
You just look fucking crazy. And very, very rarely does he blink. And he uses a lot of double talk. And shit that... And, he's lying. He's lying.
I mean...
He wasn't involved in any UFO programs.
See, that's what I mean. That's another thing, is that people can say anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's easier to check on you nowadays. Like, back in the day, you could say anything and nobody could check, right?
They have his military record, and it doesn't have any of that shit listed. He's saying, well, it was secret. Yeah, that's a whole fun story.
Well, yeah, that's what they always say.
They don't have military dudes doing that shit. If they had that shit, it would be private contractors. They'd be dudes from fucking Lockheed Martin. McDonnell Douglas and Raytheon.
Yeah.
To be those guys, career dudes, not some dude on an enlistment, you know, or even a commissioned officer that's only going to be there 4 or 5 years. They're not going to let you know shit.
No, probably not.
No.
Yeah, Papa 77
Because you're in and out.
Clickbait is everywhere. Yeah, that's the thing. And I even don't like we're on YouTube too. It's like, yes, we like when people watch our videos. We like when people subscribe. We made it over 16,000, by the way.
Oh, did we?
I didn't even notice, but we broke 16,000 the other day. I was like, whoa, look at us go.
Which means we'll hit 20,000 in 4 years.
Yeah, probably. It'll take a while. That's all right. Slow and steady wins the race. That's what they say. But I don't know. I'm not worried about it. But yeah, you know, everybody wants their videos to be watched because, like I said, you do get a little bit, not a lot of money, honestly, but it's just like a couple cents here and there. But I'm not willing to do. Like I said, I don't even like, and some of the channels that I like do this, but it pisses me off. I don't even like the fucking, when they do the thumbnails with the faces.
Yeah. The surprise faces.
I'm like,
you know, it's some fucking shenanigans happened there.
I hate that so much.
Yeah.
I hate that so much. I think I've done it a couple times, but I can't. If I try to take a picture like that, I just feel like a douchebag.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, I'm not doing that. I think the only time I did that was after I watched that Spanish movie, The Coffee Table, because that actually did kind of fuck me up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like,
Usually you see those faces associated with fucking like reaction videos.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know.
Most of the reaction channels, that shit's looking fake.
Well, yeah, because look, I watch movies all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'll comment on movies, I laugh at movies, but I've never reacted as strongly.
Yeah.
Because I hear, you watch them sometimes, and I can hear them screaming all the way down the hall.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
I only watch foreigners, though.
I have never screamed that loud watching
I only watch foreigners who've never seen the movie.
Calm down.
Best one is fucking these two dudes from Pakistan.
Those two, I like those two.
Yeah,
They don't scream, though.
They don't speak English or anything. And they don't scream, but they watched Fight Club. They loved that shit. They loved Fight Club.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, it's like, and when
a misunderstood movie.
When they found out that dude wasn't real, they go, "Oh, of course, yeah." Oh man, they liked it. Yeah.
It's you can see it in retrospect. It's kind of one of those things, like the twist where you're just like, oh no, like I should have seen it. You know what I mean? Some people guess
Marla. So Marla, yeah, he was actually. That's why Marla was acting that way.
Yeah.
Remember the girl?
Yeah. Papa sent us a super chat. Also said congratulations on the 16,000. Thank you very much. Like I said, I didn't even notice. I knew we were getting close because when I went on there, I was like, oh, we're at 15,000 blah blah, like 875 or whatever the fuck it was. And I was just kind of like, oh, we'll get 16,000 soon. Then I'll probably take another fucking 3 months or whatever. But then, like, when I looked the other day, I was like, oh, we're over 16,000. That's nice. But, you know, like I said, we've been doing this since 2016. And we kind of just do what we want to do. I mean, like, we do polls because I want to know what you guys want to see. But as far as movies go, we take recommendations and stuff like that. But mostly we just kind of do what we want to do. I mean, that's kind of what we've always done. And I don't really want to be... I don't know. I just never wanted to be one of those channels where you're trying to do things specifically to get clicks or get, you know, like, I don't really like sensationalistic titles or, like I said, the thumbnails with like the stupid faces or anything like that. It like drives me up the fucking wall. I hate it. But yeah. So maybe if we'd done that, maybe we'd have 1 million subscribers by now, but I'm just not into it. You know what I mean? I'd feel like a douche like doing that, so I don't. That's all it is. But yeah. So, okay, so what else was I saying? So there are all these other crazy stories that came about. This is one of my favorite ones, actually. So there's this guy who said that, I think his name's Jim Ragsdale. And he said that he was driving with his girlfriend, whose name was Trudy Truelove. I'm like, that's not, you don't have a girlfriend. That's not a real name. You know what I mean? That's like a blow up doll, and you just call her that because that's like a porn name. Maybe it's a real name. I don't know, but it doesn't sound like a real name to me. But he said they were driving along this highway, and they saw a spacecraft with a bat wing type thing, and they saw it crash, and they said that they later went to the crash site and took 11 gold helmets from the crash site and buried them in the desert for some reason. Why would you do that? Who knows? That's like, I don't know. So I don't know. I just thought I'd mention that because it's like, I like that story. But that was just like another guy that did the rounds, like on the Roswell fucking UFO circuit.
Papa said keep doing us the way we're doing it. Good.
Yeah, like I said, it's just, I'm not... Well, because here's the thing. It's, to me, it doesn't really... Because there's a lot of channels I like that have more subscribers than us. But then there's a lot of channels I like that have less subscribers than us. And I'm just kind of like... I don't know. Like, you know, I kind of feel like there's no formula to it.
Yeah.
And I don't really have the energy to try and figure out what the formula is, if there is one. So, and I wouldn't enjoy it if I was doing it like that anyway.
What, to get a bunch of followers?
Yeah.
Single woman, boobs, a lot of cleavage. Young. That helps. You could do it, but I'm here. I'm fucking
little
shit
late
up.
for that.
Yeah, I'm fucking shit up. But you could do it.
You're fucking shit up.
Yeah, I fuck shit up.
Well, not really, because like I do.
Your solo shit really doesn't get as many hits as
that's
this.
what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about it is, I do solo reviews of like movies and books and stuff like that. But like I said, I just do movies and books that I feel like watching. I don't really do shit that's necessarily super popular or anything like that. And a lot of people seem to like them, but then, like, you know, you also get the comments every now and then, like, "Are you a man?" You know, it's like that kind of stuff. So
it's the wigs. It's the wigs in your voice. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a message on one of my videos too. It said, "Why does your voice sound like that?" I was like, "I don't know, because your mom's a whore."
Oh, damn.
But you know, I'm not mean.
Yeah, I've heard the recordings though. You're on this microphone. It does make your voice sound a lot rougher and deeper than it actually does in person. In person, you don't sound that way. You didn't adjust that thing.
I'm not bothered.
You don't care. All right.
I just think it's funny, honestly.
Yeah. You could probably beat those dudes up.
Oh, if I ever had the chance.
Yeah. Guess what I got today?
Well, I know. What do you ask?
Guess what I got today, people? I got the new squat machine. Yeah, it's nice. It took forever to put that bitch together, but it's fucking good.
You put it together a lot quicker than I thought you would.
Yeah. Well, I had decent tools. I think it was, 4 hours? 5 hours to get that thing together? It's a professional fucking machine.
Maybe not even that long.
It's nice. Yeah. So I got a full gym now. Jen's going to be in on that shit too. So, you know.
Well, I already do squats, and it'll just be like
It'll be a lot easier. And you'll be able to get a lot more weight on there.
Yeah, that'll be a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys should see Jen's legs, man. Her fucking legs are fucking getting so awesome.
Yeah.
We're going to make a video.
I'm getting big muscle-y things.
Yeah, she's looking fucking good.
But like I said, I think the squat machine will work a lot better. Be a lot safer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because my stupid balance, I won't be falling over my ass all the time.
Well, I don't like doing squats off the back of that fucking
I always just feel like
either. Because I'm pretty fucking strong, and I was afraid I'm gonna fucking fall.
Yeah, I always feel like I'm gonna fall.
It never
I always
really
feel like
quite
that when I'm
feels
just
safe
walking.
doing a fucking...
I always feel like that when I'm walking regular anyway.
Yeah.
I have low blood pressure.
Doing a squat off the back of the bench, man, fucking and if you can bust your wall out.
That too.
If you fall, the fucking weight hits the fucking wall, it'll fucking go right through that.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
It's a lot safer to do it on the machine.
Papa77 said if Tom would go topless, I bet he could get 100 more views.
Yeah.
You gonna take your shirt off now?
Eventually. Bitch, I got a few more pounds I'm gonna lose.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, I got a few more pounds. Fucking around the waist, my shit's fucking coming in too. Getting good V-tape. But I don't want to unveil that shit until that six-pack's fucking ready. I got a six-pack now.
Everyone's just gonna go.
It's just not. It's just
they're gonna faint.
Yeah, I got a six-pack now. It's just not fucking. It's not fucking. I'm not gonna show my shit until I'm fucking. Until I'm pro level. My performance is already pro level, but my fucking fat content isn't. I need to lose about another 3 pounds, 4 pounds. Yeah, if that, 3 pounds probably.
Phantom said, what color were the alien bodies? See, I thought they just said they were gray. But maybe that's a later extrapolation. I thought the earliest things said they were gray alien bodies, like your gray aliens. But could that be... Because remember the Betty and Barney Hill case? I don't remember if we did a show about it, but I know we've brought it up on a bunch of things. That was in the 50s, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they say they saw gray aliens? Was that the first...
That was when they were talking about Zeta Reticuli.
The gray big-eyed aliens with big heads and shit? Was that the first...
What was interesting about that case, Ben and Barley Hills, that they were an interracial couple. Mm-hmm. And fucking they went public with that story.
In the 50s.
In the 50s, back when
Which
that
was
shit...
not acceptable.
It wasn't quite as acceptable as...
I think it might have been still illegal in some states.
In some states, I think it was.
In the 50s.
But, yes, and...
Crazy.
And they were kind of all American. They were just all American. They were just good. They were good people.
Well, yeah.
You know, and fucking there
Why
wasn't.
They?
And they had this weird UFO story, and they were doing the fucking not transcendental meditation, but they were what is it when they were doing? They were trying to recover memories, which that's just
hypnosis.
Always, that's just always hokey. All right.
Yeah, I'm not a big advocate of the recovered memory.
Yeah,
because that was a big aspect of the satanic panic, and almost all of that was bullshit.
Yeah, that was an interesting case. I think they wanted attention. I think they were
maybe so. Maybe they were bored with their lives.
Yeah, I think they just wanted attention.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Papa said the Hill case was the first abduction case. That's what I thought. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Yeah, they got a lot of attention. I think it was a hoax though.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, but it was a good one.
Aliens would not need to abduct you. Okay. They just wouldn't need to. If they teleported you up, they would just take a couple drops of your blood, and then they would figure out everything they needed to know about you. They'd put that shit in a fucking...
And like I said...
They knew everything about human race. And they could probably tell what was going on, and they probably wouldn't even be that interested.
See, that's what I'm always...
That's the thing is they'd go, oh yeah...
I feel like they wouldn't care.
They'd probably be interested.
One way or the other. Humans like to think that we're so interesting and stuff, but really we're not that interesting.
Humans have never seen extraterrestrials officially. We haven't made first contact. That's real interesting to us. If you're an ancient spacefaring race, that's old hat. You give a fuck about aliens. You see them all the time.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You see other ones.
That big a deal.
They would just look and see what kind of planet this is, and look at the life on it. They go, oh yeah, it's a Type 7 planet. Fuck them. Those are everywhere. It'd be the same as you're walking around in your backyard and you see ants and bugs and shit. You go, yeah, ants. Big fucking deal.
Yeah, there's lots of those.
It'd be like that. There's lots of those. They're doing the same thing.
Up my grass.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Thank you very much, Victor. We got another super chat. What if aliens are DTF? I'd be down. Well, let's...
What's DTF?
Down to fuck.
Down to fuck? Depends on what they looked like.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
And what they smelled like.
Yeah.
And what their equipment looked like.
Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that need to be considered here.
They might be sexy as shit.
I mean, I'm not averse. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I need some more information. I need some more information. What if they're too big? What if they have 3?
What if they look like those Japanese Fuda?
All right, well, okay.
They're like hermaphroditic, fucking big titties and big dick.
I'd definitely be down for
that.
Yeah.
They're fucking They got everything.
I love the Fuda.
They got everything at once. Yeah. Dick the size of a fire extinguisher, huge boobs. They look like a cute chick. You know. Yeah. You never can tell.
I like it.
Well.
Well.
I ain't going anal with that shit.
That's okay.
Diving off into your ass with a fucking thing the size of a fire extinguisher. I'll leave that to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can just watch.
Yeah, I ain't into that. I'll take... Yeah, where's the camera? It's going to be a badass video. We're going to sell this.
Yeah. We can sell this for all kind of money.
Yeah.
All kind of money.
Yeah. Louder, Jed, louder.
This is alien communication right here. It's just like fucking first contact.
Yeah, first contact.
First contact.
Deep threesome.
Yeah.
Call some shit like that, yeah.
Oh shit, maybe that's a niche that we should
Deep
get.
threesome.
Somebody's got to be doing that,
alien
aren't they?
Threesome.
Is somebody doing alien porn?
Oh,
that's not animated, that's like live action?
There are, because they got girls dressing up like Star Wars Twi'leks, fucking having lesbians fucking scenes and shit. Like, they got all that.
But I was wondering if anybody was specifically doing ones like gray aliens, like
I don't know.
the aliens came to Earth
I don't
and
know.
are molesting me. There's got to be that.
Yeah.
But like I said, if there's not, maybe that's an unexplored. That maybe that niche has not been explored all that much. So maybe we can get into that. I don't know.
Crazy shit.
You know.
Just crazy shit.
Phantom says, "How could it be a hoax when they were put under hypnosis?" Well, here is the thing:
You can fake.
hypnosis
Yeah.
is not the truth serum that people seem to think it is.
Yeah.
When you are under hypnosis, yes, you can remember stuff that you might not be able to remember when you're conscious, but you're also more suggestible.
You can make things up.
So if somebody suggests something to you and repeats it enough times, it will become part of your memories, which I think is what happened with the whole recovered memory thing. And I don't think it was intentional at first, but some of the therapists were hearing some stuff, like these people came to them for, you know, just various general anxiety and things like that. And while they were trying to delve down into what their problem was, they started to suspect, oh, maybe they've had some childhood abuse or something like that, which, like I said, that does happen. So they started going in that direction, and then they started suggesting things, perhaps, to the person while they were under hypnosis, and they started kind of fabricating a little bit of a story, or helping the person fabricate.
If the case depends,
story.
if the case is totally dependent on eyewitness testimony, it starts to get where the suspect. All right. Now, if you have a shit ton of fucking witnesses, like it's a mass sighting, that's a little more credible.
That's what I'm,
Because
and
it's hard to-
independent witnesses.
Yeah, because it's hard to get them all on the same page and to say the same thing. That's why I like the Phoenix Lights, because you had people calling into the call centers, 911 centers, across the whole state as the thing was going over the state.
Yeah, and they didn't know about the other
They didn't know
people.
about the- yeah.
Everybody was just calling in, and they have all those phone calls.
Yeah, and when the phone calls were coming in, was in the locations where it was.
Right.
They
They're
weren't
like,
all
hey, we
calling at
saw
the
this
same
weird
time.
fucking thing, like,
Right,
over,
yeah.
and they were all kind of describing a similar thing.
So that's fucking good evidence there. Very good.
Yeah, that I'd be more inclined to believe that.
Something was going over. Something that was
Yeah.
catching people's attention, and they described it as huge. Huge, a huge triangle with lights on the bottom of it. So there was something there. Definitely.
Yeah, people were seeing something.
Yeah.
Everybody wasn't making that up. Whether it was extraterrestrial, that's a different question.
The way it was described, you would think it would be. There is some aircraft that were planned to be that size, and it was a big flying aircraft carrier that had other jets inside of it, and fucking it was big, and it had jet engines, and it was vertical landing and takeoff jets, but they never built it. It was just something that was on paper, and you can't build something like that and have it survive. They'd shoot it down. Maybe they made a stealth version, but even that, it would show up on radar. It's huge. It was huge. It was bigger than an aircraft carrier, what was planned. I forgot who was going to make it. It had big old jet engines on the bottom that were like electrical powered, and it was going to have a nuclear power plant on it, like out of a nuclear submarine, running an electrical system, and then it had jets, too. And they were straight up and down inside the wings, so it could fucking blast itself up into the air. You know, fucking vertical takeoff. Because it was so big, you couldn't launch it off a runway. It was too big. It had to be vertical landing and takeoff. And it carried like 30 fighter jets in it. Or on the bottom of it, like missiles, and it could dock back up. It was crazy. And there was supposed to be some kind of a stealth version of it planned, and it was still classified. But I don't think they ever made it. There was no fucking tactical need for it. And it had been a huge waste of money. I mean, the U.S. government was wasteful and crazy, but they weren't that fucking crazy. It was something they were coming up with in the 60s. I don't think they ever would have made it.
We got a new YouTube member, Michelle M.
Well, hey.
Welcome to Flashbulbs.
Yeah, there you go. Doing that.
Now you get to vote in the polls.
Yep.
Like for what the topics are. DVD Dragon says, First Contact, Balls Deep.
Well, yeah.
I mean, see, that's
Be
a
awesome.
perfect title right there.
Yeah.
We need to make that.
Head first and balls deep.
Every discussion turns to either porn and or food.
Yeah.
On this show.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure how that happens.
Sex and shit.
Well, oh well. Heidether said, I'm just reminded of Christopher Walken in Comedian.
Yeah.
How dare you?
How dare you? How dare you? He looks at the
We
alien.
literally say that to each other like all the fucking time.
I gotta see that movie again.
It's so weird.
Communion was a fucking shit show.
What a fucking weird ass movie that was.
Fucking Christopher
The book
Walken.
is terrible, but it's just kind of like that fucking movie is
Christopher
bizarre.
Walken looking at dancing aliens that fucking anal probe him. And after that, it's a vacuum cleaner hose comes out of the wall and fucking goes into his
Yeah,
booty
like a wall
and
vacuum
sucks something
thing.
out.
That's
and
what was funny.
And then he looks at those aliens and goes, "How dare you? How dare you?" And he does it with the Christopher Walken
he's
face.
scandalized.
Yeah.
That they would dare to stick
Yeah.
something, a vacuum cleaner up
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And then a few
They
minutes
got
later,
the Dyson coming out of the wall and like just.
and then a few
popping
minutes
it
later,
in
he's
things.
laughing and dancing with the aliens. The aliens are dancing, and he's laughing at them. It's a crazy fucking movie.
Yeah, we reviewed it a while back. I'm not really entirely sure like what audience they were aiming for.
I don't think they were aiming for an audience. I think
They didn't know
fucking-
what they were
I
doing.
think Walken was just thought the whole thing was a big joke.
It seemed like, but everyone else was taking it seriously,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like the tonal whiplash was just like
Yeah.
very amusing,
Yeah.
and also kind of weird and off-putting.
I'd like to talk to Walken about that movie. He'd probably fucking laughs his ass off over that.
He's like, "Hey, I got a paycheck, whatever."
Yeah. Making a paycheck. Yeah.
The aliens anal probing me.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to know that that's like a fucking. It's not like a super popular meme, but I mean, it is like there is a GIF of that you can fucking.
Him saying, "How dare you?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the aliens have. Wasn't
Yeah.
there more than one? There was like
There's
they
a
had
shit
like
ton
a
of them.
whole bunch of the
Yeah, they're
of the
those-
anal probing vacuum cleaner tools like
Yeah.
every few feet along the wall because you never know when you might need
And then
one.
they had these little SpongeBob SquarePants fucking aliens. They look like squares. Fucking it's crazy. She was fucking crazy.
So weird.
I want to see it again to see if I actually remember it correctly.
Yeah, we will. Like I said, we
It
reviewed
did
a
have
while
a
back,
kind of a
but it-
creepy element to it.
Kinda, but I don't know, man.
It did have kind of a creepy element to it, but it was.
Because the whole time I was watching it, I'm like, who is this for?
Yeah, I was like, "Is this real? Is this a real movie?" So it was weird.
It's like, am I tripping balls right now? Who made this?
Well, Whitley Strieber's a crazy person.
He is a crazy person.
Yeah.
He did write The Hunger, so
Yeah.
I'll give him some slack for that. Although I will admit that I think Tony Scott's movie version of it is better than the book. Because I did read the book. The book is good because it gives more backstory into Miriam, like the main vampire. But that's pretty much the only... I don't know. I like the movie a lot better. But yeah, so all of this crazy shit going on in the 80s. And like I said, there's a fucking religious schism with some people thinking the alien body story is bullshit. Some people thinking the aliens are still alive somewhere, like the government has them. And all this other kind of stuff. And then finally, after a bunch of pressure... mostly from a congressman in New Mexico named Stephen Schiff. The government finally came out in 1994 and admitted that, yeah, the weather balloon shit that we said, that was bullshit. That was a cover story. What it actually was, as we mentioned earlier, Project Mogul. And this was a program that had been started in the 40s, and it was basically like a covert program to like monitor Soviet nuclear activities. And the specific crash that happened at Mac Brazel's ranch, they're pretty sure, 99% sure, that that specific balloon had come from a launch of 17 of the balloons that they had done on June 4th from, several miles away from where his ranch was. And because they had pretty much tracked and they're like, yeah, that's probably where that one went. So they even knew like what launch that was from, that it happened. It took a couple weeks, I think, before it got there, because I think it was like the end of June, like before he found the crash stuff. But so they knew where it came from. And they said all the shit that was described, all the debris and everything like that, that sounds exactly like what that is. And it's like, yes, we gave the weather balloon story like as a cover up because that was a top secret program at the time. It's since been declassified, obviously, because they don't need it anymore. But that's what it was, and that's why we were being like so secretive and all that other kind of stuff. Now, of course, because they had been so shady all of this time, some people just immediately accepted that. It's like, oh, well, that makes total sense, and it just, colors in all the lines. You know what I mean? It's like everything that was weird about that case, yes, we understand it now. However, everybody in the UFO community did not believe this story and thinks that the government is still covering stuff up to this day and that they still have alien bodies somewhere. And I kind of feel like a lot of that is probably predicated upon a lot of people in the UFO community. They have built their whole entire careers out of writing books about UFOs, about writing books about Roswell, going to conventions and giving speeches and stuff like that. So it's like, if this was all just revealed to be just some bullshit top secret mission that wasn't really that exciting, and it wasn't aliens, then if you admit that, then, you know, the money spigot dries up. So maybe that's all it is. Oh, we got another super chat from Papa77. What do you guys think of Bob Lazar and his claims? Didn't we do a show about Bob Lazar?
Bob Lazar's full of shit.
I think he's full of shit too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of these, not all of them obviously, and I think some people do actually believe, and I'm talking about people on the UFO circuit, people on the paranormal circuit, stuff like that. I kind of feel like a small percentage of them do actually believe what they're peddling.
Not him, though.
But I don't think he does.
No.
I don't think he does.
No, he was there as a contractor. He flew in there to Groom Lake and worked on some air conditioners. That's what the records say. He wasn't in there working on UFOs. There aren't any UFOs in there. You know, it's going to be, at that time, stealth craft, fucking reconnaissance craft, shit like that. Things at it's test range. And they're working on missiles, too. Shit like that. But that place is run almost kind of like a maximum security prison. You have to fly in and out. There's no roads that go there. It's heavily controlled. But no, he's full of shit.
I mean, just like when we did a show about kind of famous psychics, and I think to some extent, I think you're better at it if you believe your own bullshit, at least to a small degree. But I think a lot of them are just grifters, to be honest with you.
Well, one of his claims is that we have back-engineered flying saucers running on alien technology that can outperform any aircraft. If we had that, we'd be using them.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be keeping them secret. We'd actually be using that shit. But they're not. Because they don't have it.
Yeah.
And another thing is fucking... the way things are going, having a super high-performance aircraft aren't really going to help you that much. Not in the age of hypersonic missiles. If you look at what's really fucking kicking ass on a battlefield right now, it's all the $400 drones with a fucking $40 RPG round strapped to it. That could take out a fucking multi-million-dollar tank. Smaller and cheaper is better. So you don't really need any of that shit. Not anymore. But you did back in those days. The reason why they're coming up with that shit is because it was still Cold War. And something like that would have helped out in the Cold War, but they would have used it back then.
Yeah, you'd think, because they were looking for any advantage.
Yeah.
Why do you think they were spying on the Soviets? Because they thought that they had some cool shit that we didn't have. And so it's like, woo, if they got some shit, we're going to, like, figure out how to do it, too. Like, if they have cooler shit than we have.
If we had UFOs, we'd have flown them over the Kremlin and shit. And told
of course.
And told them to surrender.
Yeah, if we had alien technology and we're reverse engineering that shit, you better believe we'd be using that. Any advantage.
Yeah, we go over there going, okay, that's it. We can fucking beat you, and then fucking use some fucking alien weapons to fucking blow some shit up. It says surrender now, unconditional surrender, like we did to the Japanese. That's what we would have done.
Then gone over there like Mars Attacks, been like,
and they said, well, they'd launch all their missiles. So you'd have those fucking UFOs. You could track down every one of those missiles and shoot them down. You know.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have enough. Then you just make more. You know, if they actually worked, you'd make a shit ton of them and hand them out. So, you know, no. Magical thinking doesn't work with the government. If they had something that was fucking leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else, they'd exploit it.
Yeah, of course they would. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
If they're not using it, they haven't got it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty safe assumption, I think.
And put that bitch into mass production. It'd be a regular issue from the U.S. Air Force. You know, flying saucer. with fucking particle beam weapons on it.
Yeah, you better believe if they had a fucking particle beam weapon, they'd be using that shit.
Yep.
I would.
They got shit like that. It's just that they're not as good as you think they are.
Yeah, some shit's cooler in movies, that's all.
Yeah, laser beams and particle type beams. It breaks up under fucking atmospheric conditions when their atmospheric conditions are bad, and the laser comes down and it hits the fucking target, and the target starts to bloom. Plasma comes off of it because it's burning. Well, lasers don't penetrate that plasma very well, so you have to pulse it, and it doesn't work as well as you think it does in practice. You can kind of shoot down some missiles with it. They had that shit airborne lasers that could do that, but you have to keep that bitch airborne, and the range really isn't that far. Maybe, you'd probably be lucky to get 20 miles, maybe, with something like that. I'm sure all the shit's classified, but energy weapons aren't very efficient. What's better is hypersonic missiles and guided missiles. Is a lot easier to do. A lot more certain. And if you don't think you can hit it, put a fucking atomic warhead on it. And just put a proximity fuse. So if it comes within a few hundred meters, it fucking blows up and the fucking shockwave from the atomic blast fucking destroys it. You don't have to fucking hit it.
You don't even have to get that close.
You don't have to hit it. If you want to do it the way a man would do it, you put a fucking atomic warhead on it.
We'll just blow it all up.
Blow that shit up. Yeah. Anything a mile and around is destroyed. You only have to get about a mile.
Make sure to get it.
You just want to get within a half mile or so.
I don't want to aim. Fuck that. Dudes don't like.
Well, it might be moving fast.
Dudes don't like to aim.
Well, it may be. It may
You've ever had to clean them.
It may be moving fast. It might be moving too fast.
Yeah.
So you may not be able to actually hit it. You probably only be able to get close to it. And that's how you do it. And they had shit like that. That was I didn't pull that out of my ass. The Nike missiles, I believed, worked that way, and I think they had different versions of it. Some of them were atomic.
Thank you very much, David Greener. Ever heard of the Dark Force theory for aliens? I don't think I have, actually. I think you mentioned it earlier, but I didn't see the comment. But yeah, thank you very much for the super chat. If you elaborate, we can maybe talk about it a little bit more. But the Dark Force theory for aliens. Mm. So one of the theories that they're talking about, for the alien bodies thing, is that perhaps, maybe, that got started from people seeing dummies that were used in, for example, Operation High Dive.
Yeah, I remember that thing.
Which was something that started in the 50s.
I saw that.
Which were kind of just high altitude tests where they would have human size and human weight dummies. And sometimes they'd get burned and they'd fall to earth and stuff like that. And sometimes when they went to recover sites, they would actually recover them and put them in kind of coffin-y sort of boxes and stuff. So it's so maybe it could be that people were seeing that and thinking it was alien bodies. I don't know. I kind of feel like the alien bodies thing was maybe just made up because I kind of feel like that's from a fictional story.
More likely they made that shit
But it could be that somebody saw that and that's where they got the idea from.
It inspired them, maybe.
And later on, as we all know, in the 90s, if you were alive in the 90s, the alien autopsy thing was a big fucking deal. And that was supposedly from Roswell. The story behind alien autopsy, which, spoiler alert, was fake. I'm sure you guys didn't need to be told that. But it came out, and he said that he had gotten it from the photographer, after the Roswell crash. This guy was he worked for the Air Force, and he was really old now, and he was a cameraman, and he had this footage, and he gave it to this guy, and this guy released it. So this was in 1995, and I remember because I was 23 in 1995. I didn't watch it, but I remember it being a big deal. I remember there was commercials. It was oh my god, proof of aliens, alien autopsy. But when I saw it later, I'm that is so obviously fake. I'm not really sure why anyone was excited about it. Some of the stuff in there was anachronistic. It wasn't. I don't know. It just didn't look real to me. But anyway, they found out later that it was actually a hoax, not surprisingly. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know how anybody believed it. It was just kind of like that Discovery Mermaid documentary, which I didn't know anybody believed what Tom's dad believed it though. Like that fucking mockumentary they made on Discovery that mermaids were real. So it was along those lines. But I will say that the alien autopsy, I will give you like a little bit more grace because yes, that was 1995.
Yeah.
And people weren't quite as media savvy.
I remember that shit.
But it's like watching it, I'm like, that looks pretty fucking fake.
When no.
It looks pretty fucking fake.
I rented that bitch from the V8 from the video store.
Everybody did.
And the fucking I was living in Boston at the time. And the people they had snotty ass fucking people working at the store. When I'd fucking rent fucking UFO shit and they'd be rolling their eyes like this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, bitch, don't worry about what I'm fucking renting. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking, you know? I got the alien autopsy thing. I popped it into my fucking TV. My TV had a VCR on the bottom of it, or a VHS on the bottom of it.
I had one of those.
I was watching it. Yeah,
Was it
so
built
one
in?
about that big.
Yeah.
You could get them for like $100. I was watching that. I was kind of glued to it. I must admit. I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And it had me going. But I had to watch it 2 or 3 times to like totally come to a conclusion. The first time I saw it, I was quite impressed. I says, "Man, I got to see that again. That might be real." Then I watch it again, and I go, "Wait a minute, what kind of autopsy is this?"
They're not doing the autopsy right.
Says they're not really doing much anything. So this
They're
is
just
what
kinda, hey, I'm gonna take this gut out, plop.
yeah, like this is.
They're not like measuring it or wait,
Yeah.
like nothing. They weren't doing.
They don't
anything.
have a fucking group of dudes fucking discussing it, of how to cut something out. They're just reaching in there and pulling shit out.
And then just
I'm,
putting it on
going,
the
I'm
scale.
like, this is going awful fast.
Yeah.
You know. Like, who's running this shit?
They're not doing it right.
Yeah. Because I went to good high school where they had biology and shit. You know, we doing vivisection on the fucking brain dead turtle, and the fucking doing dissection on the fucking frogs and cats, dead cats.
I did a pig.
It takes time to do
And
that
a
shit.
shark.
It takes time to do that shit. And if you're dealing with an alien creature, you're not going to want to disturb it much.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
You're going to want to look at everything and see where everything's positioned. You'll be taking pictures and everything.
Yeah, nobody was.
Yeah, and I'm
That's what
going,
I thought was weird. I was like, you guys are not like
I'm
documenting
like, this shit
the
here
way-
is fucking.
This is a momentous
Yeah,
occasion. You
right.
should be like being a lot more careful.
And there'd be 15 dudes in there
yeah.
looking at it, fucking giving their opinions. And they'd be taking pictures as they were going. It would take a long time.
Yeah.
And they'd be in a room that was refrigerated. You know what I'm talking about?
Turned out later that they just built that set in somebody's living room.
Yeah.
Like in London or something.
Doesn't. It's definitely just because you can see there's a clock on the wall.
Yeah.
And just like shit from Office in there.
Yeah.
You're like, what the hell kind of medical place is this?
Right.
Where they're doing this dissection. It would have been in like a refrigerated morgue.
Yeah.
Where it'd be nice and cool. Where that shit wouldn't rot. And just, there would have been a procedure. They didn't take a single photo.
No, they didn't, did they?
No.
And like I said, it just seemed like they were just being real, like, fucking cavalier
yeah.
about it. Just reaching shit and then just throwing it
Pulling
in
shit
the
out
fucking...
and throwing it out there. Like,
Which, like I said, they'll do that to humans if you haven't been murdered or something like that, like, because they're not really that concerned
well, they know
about
where
it.
all that stuff comes from. And they
Right.
know what all that is. If this is an alien creature, man, you're going to be doing that shit
be like,
nice
what
and
the fuck's
slow.
this
going,
thing?
What's that? They're going to be taking pictures of it. They're going to be all like,
Lay
what's
that out
connected to
over
what?
there with, like, next to a ruler
Yeah,
and
and
stuff.
they're going to be like, what's connected to what? How's that work? What's happening here? They'd be like that. But they just dug through it like it was nothing.
Yeah.
It was like, like they were like they were fucking cleaning a fish.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's kind of the impression it gave me.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're not doing
Yeah,
it
so the
right.
second time I was watching, I was like,
They're not doing
this
it right.
isn't an autopsy.
No.
Can't be. And then the third time I watched it, I was like, this is fake.
Yeah, it's definitely fake.
This is fake. Yeah.
I mean, I suspected it was fake
Yeah.
from the beginning. They hyped it up so much. I'm like, no one's going to show that on fucking TV
No.
if that was real.
it looked good though.
Yeah,
The
it was,
alien
it
looked
was a
pretty good.
decent fake.
Well,
but,
yeah, it was it was low resolution VHS. You
Yeah.
couldn't really see.
Well, yeah, that
It
added to the
looked-
verisimilitude because they're just
Yeah.
kind of like this. It was supposed to be from 1947.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was kind of blurry. It didn't look like 47 though, did it?
No, it did not.
Didn't look that old.
That was another thing. It looked like new that was trying to look old.
Yeah.
David says the Dark Forest theory is a hypothesis that suggests alien civilizations are hostile and silent because they fear being destroyed by other alien civilizations. The theory suggests that any intelligent life encountered by a spacefaring civilization would be destroyed. This would lead to a quiet electromagnetic spectrum with no evidence of intelligent life. This is because the intentions of any newly contacted civilization are unknown. The theory suggests that all advanced civilizations are silent, and those that are not are destroyed by other races.
Yeah.
I had never heard that before.
That's one of the answers to the Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
I don't buy it because it would require all of the advanced civilizations to be very old, millions of years old. I don't think civilizations last that long. I think they last thousands of years, maybe. Like, ours is 6,000 years old. It might last another 6,000. And then it probably goes back into dark age. Species changes, that kind of shit. And then then the light of civilization goes back out again. And then, millions of years later, maybe another creature comes out. But, no, I don't think so. It requires too much time. And I think, I kind of agreeing with a lot of what these guys are saying. I think eventually what happens is machine intelligence takes over. We create machines that are intelligent, and they outlast us. Not that they kill us off or anything. It's just that they're immortal. They don't die of old age. We do. And over time, they would outpopulate us. And then, they'd be doing shit we couldn't even dream of. Making fucking badass technology. You probably let them take over. And then your numbers start to dwindle. And then you're gone. Your whole species is gone. And what's taking your place are these living machines. And they don't have a lot of the frailties that humans have. They last forever. They don't need food. They don't need an atmosphere. And they're perfectly well suited to space travel. Because they don't care how long it takes. They don't need high tech. They don't care if it takes 1 million years. They'll just turn off. And they'll wake up when they get there.
Victor says, I used to love Coast to Coast until it started getting really dumb. They did a show about back pain, and I was out.
Back pain.
What could you possibly... Well, so Coast to Coast, are they saying that the back pain was caused by some kind of supernatural thing, or like the Tingler, like from that Vincent Price movie, or
the Tingler,
or something like that? They should do a show about the Tingler. Yeah. That's what they should do. But yeah, so Roswell, man, like I said, I'm not saying that I don't think that there's aliens or intelligent life out there. I'm sure that there probably is. Have they visited here? I doubt it. Maybe.
No concrete proof yet, but there's...
It wouldn't shock me, but I kind of doubt it. Do they routinely abduct people? No. I'm pretty safe saying that. So, have they crashed here? No. I don't think so. So, I kind of feel like the Roswell situation, I think it's exactly what the military said it was in the 90s. They lied about it back then, because it was a top secret program. But I think in the 90s they said, that was we were spying on the Soviets and we didn't want them to know. So we didn't tell
Project Mogul.
I think that's all it was. Because if you go back to the original reports, it doesn't really sound all that exciting. All of the alien bodies and all that kind of stuff, that was later additions that came from other sources and got, conflated with this story.
It was sticks, tape, and rubber, and cellophane type material.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's a balloon.
Yeah. I think that's all it was.
Yeah.
And I don't think any alien spacecraft have crashed here.
If you can get here, you're probably not going to crash.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. It's like, that seems really lame. It's like, I know that however, highfalutin your technology is, it can go wrong. Like, shit can go wrong. But I kind of feel like if you're that advanced that you can come here, I kind of feel like you got your shit together enough that you're not just going to crash into New Mexico desert someplace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And leave little alien bodies.
That's a very 20th century concept.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a very 1950s concept when you think about it. And it lasted for a long time.
Yeah.
But what we know now, the internet, fucking what we know about fucking space travel and fucking AI and just the way technology actually seems to go, no. Nah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No. Nothing comes here and crashes.
I don't think so.
I think stuff comes here. There's a good chance.
Maybe.
If you ask me. Based on witness testimonies in some of these cases, yeah, maybe something's come by here. Good chance. I'd like to see it myself. I won't 100% believe it until I saw it myself. But, you know, this is the way it is. I think most people are like that. Some of those cases sound pretty damn compelling. You know, some tic-tac UFO, you know, pilot sees something and just looks like a little tic-tac. And now they have some shit that they'll show, look like something moving across the top of the water real fast. It looks like it's low to the water, moving really fast, and the fucking jets are trying to lock onto it. It's not low to the water. It's 1,000 feet above the water. And they're passing it, and they're trying to zoom in on it. And in the background, you see the waves going by real fast. It's called parallax. You see it with fucking rifle scopes and shit. It's just it's just an optical effect from when you're looking down through a tube, basically. You're passing it. So in the background, it looks like the waves are moving real fast, but it's not moving at all. I think it's just a paper bag. I think it's a plastic bag floating through the air, which you'll see that sometimes. Plastic bag will get picked up by the wind and it'll just kind of fucking float around like a balloon. It wasn't moving fast. The jet was moving fast. It was passing it.
Victor says also alien spacecraft are probably not going to have any lights on them. Why would they?
Well, I don't think that's a light. All right. It could be two different things. Either it's some kind of a stealth Zeppelin and they have fucking optical camouflage on it. And what it is it's a bunch of light displays. So when you see it, you think it's a UFO and you report it as an alien craft. That's the same as not seeing it. Because you say, I saw this and that, and they don't believe you. So it's a form of camouflage.
It was crazy looking.
You crazy motherfucker. It was crazy looking. You're not going to believe it. It could be that. Or it could be not a light. It might be part of the propulsion system. Let's say the thing has rendered itself massless because it can fucking bend space, time, and mass and matter. So it's massless now. Maybe all it needs for propulsion is a light. If you don't weigh anything, you got no mass, and you beam a light out the back, does that propel you forward? It might. Just beaming out a bunch of fucking photons. You know, it might be act like a jet engine. Yeah, it might be act like a jet engine because you don't have any mass.
Right off the screen.
But if you don't have any mass, you're almost not real. But you have true mastery over fucking material and space and time. Anything that could do that is probably also a time machine. You know what I mean? That's some high-tech shit. But I think when you talk about technology at that level, you're not talking about biological organisms. You're talking about living machines. You're talking about the monolith from 2001. You know, godlike intelligence.
So here's a funny little fact. Even as recently as 2017, there was a UFO conference in Mexico, and they got very, very excited over these old slides that they showed that they said purported to show a dead space alien. Mm-hmm. Turned out, though, no one will be surprised, to know that this supposed dead alien was actually a mummified Native American child.
Yeah.
That had actually been in a museum for many, many years. And so people had taken pictures of it. They found it back in 1896 and had put it in a museum. And somebody had taken pictures of it and I guess marked that erroneously as dead space alien, and people bought it, but it was just a mummified kid.
I saw a photograph of, I think it might have been a video actually, of, not a photograph, I'll go back and I've got to find it again, of a mummified 15 or 16-year-old girl in a sitting position up underneath some rocks out on top of one of, she was Mayan or Aztec, and she looked alive.
Yeah, sometimes if the mummification is really good. I have seen ones that actually...
It looked like a living girl with her eyes closed, just looking down like she was asleep.
It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, and she was just like this little pretty Mexican girl. Yeah.
It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, she looked like you could wake her up. It was bizarre. She was freeze-dried, basically.
Hopefully she wouldn't wake up. That would be really creepy.
That'd be weird. Because I think it was pretty high altitude, you know what I mean? And there's no moisture and it was cold. She was up on a mountain.
Yeah, I mean, natural mummification happens.
Yeah.
Under certain.
She must have been somebody important. She was well dressed and everything, you know. So they had to take her a long way up there. You know what I mean? She was way up high. And they discovered, this I think it was from the 90s, maybe 2000s when they found
Victor
her.
said she was Incan.
Incan?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Victor.
He knows who I'm talking about? Incan? Yeah. Okay. That's pretty far south then. But she's, South American, not Central American then. But she looked like she was alive. Weird.
I have seen mummies that look like they're still alive.
Yeah, she's about 15, probably 16.
I mean, not many. Like, mostly you can tell they're mummies, but, like, some of them look pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, for dead people, but I have seen a couple that still look like they were alive.
You could tell she was pretty. She was somebody high-ranking. But they wouldn't have taken her up there.
But so it just goes to show that photographs can get, it's a real photograph, obviously, but it can get misidentified or, whether on purpose or accidentally, and used for other purposes. But that's what happened in this thing, too. And they were even at the fucking conference, and they're like, hey, look, dead alien. And they're like, no, that's just a mummified kid. Calm down. So there's that, too.
Victor, when did they find her? In the 90s? I think they found her in the 90s, but she'd been up there for hundreds of years. I think she was from the 1500s. Bizarre, huh? That somebody could be up there for that amount of time and not rot.
Yeah. Well, like I said, atmospheric conditions.
Yeah.
It happens a lot naturally.
Yeah.
It happens in the UK in bogs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, what do they call that? Anaerobic or something.
Yeah.
There's like not much oxygen. So you're not going to decay, That's all it is. Yeah. Victor said the article said she was probably chosen as a sacrifice because of her beauty.
Okay. So did they kill her up there, or they sacrificed her and then put her up there?
And was she chill about it? She seemed pretty chill about it.
They usually were all pretty religious about it, according to the Spaniards.
I don't think
I
could ever be that religious. Hey, we're gonna kill you for this weird belief or something.
The Spaniards said some of them had to be held down.
Well, yeah.
But other ones went up there willingly, all being manly about it. Fucking, they're telling people what they're going to tell God when they get there. Could you tell? Because people would ask them, could you tell them I'm having this problem? Could you solve? I'll talk to them about it.
Can you ask God to find my car keys? I can't
shit.
find those fucking things anywhere.
Yeah.
Victor said she was discovered in 1999.
99, right.
Probably sacrificed in the 1500s.
Okay, yeah.
That might be an interesting show.
Like, what's her name?
Natural mummies.
Yeah, I'll look her back up again.
I guess she was a natural mummy because they didn't expect her to mummify.
No.
But they just.
Well, I think they knew they kind of preserved up there.
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't think they did anything to her.
Yeah, not like the Egyptians where they pulled your brain out your nose.
She's just some little pretty chick, and it looks like she's up there sleeping. She's kind of up in like a fetal position, sitting, with her arms crossed, her head and her head's down a little bit.
Yeah, I think I've seen that photo. I know.
Yeah.
Thinking
black hair, kind of pulled back.
Talking about. But I don't know. I was kind of find that really interesting.
Yeah.
Like all those kind of natural mummies.
Oh, it's weird because it's like a face from the past,
Yeah,
and it's still a person.
And it's like you could imagine them like walking around.
Yeah, like somebody you see today. Yeah.
I kind of feel the same way about like when you see like old silent movies like from the late 1800s and you're like, man, all those people are dead now and they're just like walking around and stuff. That's like kind of spooky.
Yeah, there's a French one of a little girl, teenage girl who's with an old woman and she's pouring milk into a bowl to eat cereal, and a cat jumps up and drinks milk out of the bowl.
Yeah,
and they upscaled it so it looks crisp and clear, and they changed the frame rate.
So it looks normal.
It looks brand new. Yeah, she looks brand new, and it's so funny how modern people kind of looked and they acted. Because in the old films, it's kind of jerky, almost like a flicker.
Well, they have a hand crank it.
Yeah. They fix all that, and they fucking sharpen up the image and everything. And you could see like what they're wearing and fucking the facial expressions and everything. And it's just like, man, it looked like they happened yesterday. And then the cat was that being just a normal cat.
Yeah, I mean, cats are gonna cat.
Cat's gonna cat. Yeah. Unchanged.
Yeah, Victor says the La Doncella mummy is what. Yeah, that's right. I remember.
What's it called?
La Doncella.
La Doncella. Okay.
Yeah. Burley says, did they ever solve the slaughtered cattle thing? Man, that's another show we should do. We should do a show about cattle mutilation.
Cattle mutilation? Cattle mutilation is natural predation.
I'm going to write that down, though.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I don't think aliens are doing it.
No. Fucking ants,
or the chupacabra.
birds, fucking stuff coming up, taking a bite out of it.
Some of them are weird looking, but I don't think there's...
Yeah, and then it kind of, it'll swell up and it'll fucking decay slightly and it'll make it look more geometric. It's not a cattle mutilation. Aliens would be interested in that shit.
Like I said, why would aliens do that?
No.
Unless they're
It's just normal
it's
shit.
teenager aliens and they're just fucking around.
Yeah.
Like human teenagers will go cow tipping. So like teenager aliens go do cattle
No,
mutilation.
they've had experts in there that know decomposition and what happens to animals and when they die. They got dudes that are like death experts, and they see that shit and they go, "No, this is all normal.
Yeah.
This is just what happens to them."
Yeah. Like I said, sometimes it does look weird, but I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything like unusual.
Some of it's hoaxed.
about
It looks like somebody cut some flesh with the damn the special fucking scissors that are zigzag for cutting cloth.
pinking shears.
Pinking shears. Yeah, I've seen. Look, the aliens did that with a laser beam or something. No. Pinking shears.
Who would cut a cow with pinking shears?
Well, it was already dead.
That is psycho behavior.
Well, it was already dead.
Yeah, but still, I would never do that to a
They're
dead cow.
they're trying to
That's
make
crazy.
it look like aliens did it.
I know, but geez.
Yeah.
Victor says everyone thinks it's aliens, but it's really Sasquatch.
yeah.
Then Phantom said Linda Moulton Howe talks a lot about cattle mutilation. Yeah, I kind of feel like wasn't there? I think on the new Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix,
Yeah.
I think they did a show, or I don't know if it was a whole show, or it might have been half a show, like about cattle mutilations.
She's made a living about talking about everything. Some of their shit's is not bad, you know. Like she talk about good. She'll talk about a good case or a bad case, but she puts them at equal footing, and that's not how it actually goes. Yeah.
Just trying to get in there. Like I said,
Yeah.
I think 99% of the cases out there are just bullshit.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're not necessarily bullshit because someone made it up. I think sometimes people are just misinterpreting things. And then other people are like taking advantage of being like, yeah, we know that's bullshit, but we're just going to like cash in on this.
Yeah, and then they start jumping in and making up more stuff.
And then they start making up more stuff. So I think it just kind of happens. Like I said, the whole thing, that's what happened with the Roswell case. It's like, it was something a little bit weird that happened. And then it wasn't a big deal, but then like many years later, somebody decided to pick it up and like run with it, and then all this shit got added on like in the subsequent years.
Yeah.
And now it's just like everybody associates Roswell with like flying discs and dead aliens and all this other kind of stuff, and none of that stuff had anything to do with it. Like the
Not with
original
the original
story.
case, no.
So that was like much later. That was added
Yeah.
like 30 years later. But you know, what are you gonna do?
The original case, it was all lightweight materials that you could pick up. It was little shit, and it was all sticks, tape, pieces of rubber, pieces of like cellophane type material. That's not alien craft.
That was like the aliens made a kite.
Kite.
The aliens were flying a kite. That's
Yeah.
what they were doing. Little gray alien taking a little fucking
Yeah.
little kite out there.
Brazel said that it covered an area of his farm. It was all in pieces because it came down and got tore up by the wind, which means it wasn't very solid to begin with.
Yeah.
There wasn't any fucking circuitry or jet engines or fucking
Yeah, so there was no
plutonium,
engines, there was
fucking power
nothing like
plants and bodies or none of that shit was there.
No.
It was a balloon that came
it
down,
just
tore
looked like a
up
bunch
on the
of crap.
ground.
Just a bunch of cheap crap is what
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yep.
All the other stuff was just added on later.
Yep.
All right, so it is almost 11 o'clock.
Yep. Shut it down.
So I guess we're going to wrap it up for this evening.
It was a good show, though.
It did go really well. Like I said, I've been really busy the last few days, and I haven't been able to do as much research on this as I wanted to. But I guess we did.
Well,
the
the more you dig into this case, the more bullshit you're going to find because you're going to find shit that got added onto it later.
Well, I know, and that's what I was trying to
bigger.
like kind of. I was trying to like cover all the bullshit, and it was just like
And, don't want to fucking piss on your parade. I believe in a lot of those UFOs, the good ones. This isn't one of the good ones.
Yeah, I mean, just because we say it's just kind of like I said, I'm a skeptic pretty much all around. But we talk about like some paranormal cases, even though I think like 99% of them are bullshit.
Some
like,
of them are pretty weird.
Maybe some of them are kind of weird, and maybe there's something to it. You know what I mean? I think most of the time there's not. I think people are just making stuff up, or they're just misinterpreting things.
Yeah.
But sometimes there might be something that's like genuinely weird or anomalous, and I'm like willing to go that far. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing. I do think there are probably aliens, but I don't think they crashed at Roswell. I absolutely don't. All right, so we are going to wrap it up for this evening. Thank you, everybody, for dropping by and hanging out with us tonight. Thank you very much for super chats and for joining becoming a YouTube member and all of that stuff. So, again, as you all know, we'll be here again Friday night for the Sidetrack Show, which does not have a topic. We just drink and talk about whatever. Usually, like I said, it goes in food, sex, music kind of directions. usually, but it's always a fun time, and we don't have anywhere to go Friday night, so we can hang out for as long as we want with you guys. So hopefully you guys can come and hang out with us on that night too. So yeah, have a good rest of your evening. Have a good day tomorrow, and we will see you guys again on Friday night. Good night.